Spaghetti cake. My favorite kind of cake. Tell me you love tacos. I certainly do. I get the barilla tacos every time I get them. It's kind of sad, honestly, that like most people's experience with tacos have been whatever pink slime bullshit Taco Bell comes up with. So why did you live stream last night also? It was bonus content that I had to get out for members of the channel. Make any more Bigfoot videos? I hope so, man. I hope somebody I mean, I feel like we're well overdue for some like really solid Bigfoot evidence. Amy, thank you for the 4. I don't know why that emoji is so funny. It's no, don't say it. Don't say it. Do you believe in the Bigfoot man? I do. I believe in all the men who have big feet. I believe in them, even if they are tripping over themselves. Bigfoot / Washington State horror video. It's very specific. I think we can make it happen. Dare I say Taco Bell is better than real tacos? What? I don't know. You gotta go to like a... Gotta go to Mima's house. She'll make it for you. Better live streams than the one I just left about Shani and Rev. I hope nobody has heard of them. I have not, no. I feel like I'm always like out of the loop on niche internet celebrities. And then as soon as I start hearing about them, I like don't ever want to hear anything else. Edgar Juarez, welcome to the Buttersock Cult. You now have access to bonus content. And the new bonus content we just put out with The Wire. What's it called? The Wire, or Over the Wire. What the hell is it called? It's a World War I paranormal. Oh, No Man's Land, The Wire by Sam Riding. Be sure to go check that out in the bonus content playlist. And Zoomstar43, thank you for the 5 gifters too. Amy, Sleepy Nina, Dark Angel, MGA, and Panda Niece, and Cheek Separator. I was getting very good at separating them cheeks. Been saying for years Taco Bell should just have drive-through bathrooms next to... Yeah, they should give you a bucket when you buy. Why am I ignoring you? I'm not ignoring you. I didn't even see your previous one. But I can't always read everybody's comment. I'm sorry. There's some new videos of Bigfoot. This one dude caused one smashing fruits or something on a rock, and the other, this guy got a full face shot of one, and my goodness, it's a wild video. Interesting. So it does exist. Has it already been debunkified? Christian Cervantes, welcome to the Buttersock Cult. You now have access to bonus content. Yeah, it was a video of Brianna smashing fruit into a tree to break it open. Those bananas, when they're not ripe, they are difficult to bust open. How am I doing? I'm doing good. Ever farted in front of my girlfriend? She likes it when I fart directly into her. Like she has like a tube connected to her like nostrils. And I kind of create like an air suction tight contraption around my ass. Anytime I release one, it goes right in. And to her, she says it's like a breath of fresh air. Daily streams, not quite, just more frequent for right now, for this weekend, because of bonus content. Yeah, these cult stories, honestly, they could be hit or miss, so I'm hoping for some good stuff here. Usually 4chan doesn't let me down too hard. If anything, it's weird. Yeah, CPAP for farts. That'd be a beautiful thing we should invent. What do I look like? I guess dangerous would be the only way I can describe. Like someone that you don't want to crease their Jordans. Let's just say that. When are you and Mr. Balin getting together? I send him love letters all the time. And I say, will you collab with me, yes or no? And he draws like a really intricate middle finger back. It says KYS. And I'm like, what? But it's cute. We just playing. The only thing dangerous about Joel's looks are his cholesterol level, yeah. That shit is off the scarts. Off the charts. Elizabeth Knapp, welcome to the Butter Suck Cult. You now have access to bonus content. It would be nice to include the cult controversy surrounding the CERN Research Institute. Yeah, what's that all about? I never even heard about there. I remember there was like the only thing I remember hearing about that place is that, what was it? Like outside of it, they have like a Indian god, like the god of destruction or something is outside of their, like as a statue or whatever. CERN is going to destroy us. Do you think so? That'd be such a weird thing. Like, I mean, I guess it would be kind of funny if like somebody just, as sort of a fail-safe, is like, you know what? If I ever get bored, I can just blow up the entire Earth. Yeah, the dancing Shiva statue. Is that what you're talking about? But Elizabeth Knapp, thank you again and welcome. And David, thank you for the 2. What's up, Joel? You're the man. Thank you, David. David, have you seen Terrifier 3? I've not seen it, but I've seen the other 2. I'm all caught up to date for when I see the 3rd. Do you know who Jehovah is? Like Jehovah's Witness situation, or is this Jehovah's a personal friend of yours? Me and a former friend were approached by an Asian woman in a Target about joining a Church of God to prepare for upcoming apocalypse. Such a weird experience. Yeah, I remember talking to some guy at the grocery store more recently about his sort of apocalyptic style church. And who knows, we might be entering into a semi-end of days here with World War III. I hope we can avert it. I hope diplomacy can make something happen, but it doesn't seem like we're getting diplomacy with our current admin. I don't know. But that being said, yeah, he was pretty surprised when he's like, would you like to go to church with me? And I was like, no, I'm just here for peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Oh, what? Stormwave with the 5 chat. What do you look like, Joel? Well, I'm 7'2", buff. I have a robotic arm that has a grappling hook, and a mechanical eye that shoots lasers. Also, have you seen all of the Sasquatch footage lately? Looks like they finally caught me. Cosmos, thank you for the 7. Can't wait for cult stories. Me too. This should be interesting tonight. What else is new? Anything cool happened today or this weekend? I don't know if you guys follow the NFL, but that one guy, I felt so bad for him. He's like a defensive end for the Lions, and he completely shattered his shin. Kind of like Anderson Silva whenever like he went to kick with his shin into somebody else's shin, and it's just crazy like how, I don't even know. It makes me wonder, it's like, I wonder if he had like bigger tibialis muscle, if that would have protected him, but I feel like it probably wouldn't, since there's really no fucking muscle. Isn't that strange? Why the hell do we not have muscle on the front of our shins? Yeah, Aiden Hutchinson, he got screwed hard. Do I know the Muffin Man? He was my father. My Sasquatch Cannon event. Down at the local dealer. We're having a Sasquatch Cannon event. 50% off. Then my mix. Yeah, I'm part Doberman, part Husky. Got a spooky tattoo this weekend. Joel, any tats? Hey, you know me. Just the one on my lower back. Abandon all hope, ye who enter here. Fear Factor's the only thing on TV. That's kind of crazy. That'd be hilarious if like Joe Rogan was like still hosting Fear Factor. Like nobody watches it, but he just does it out of passion. David, thank you for the 2 says, just saw it today. Awesome gore. Terrifier 3. Heck yeah, dude. Just dropped in to leave a like. Might come back for a replay. Listen at work. Good night. Hey, see you, Deshay. Take care. Zoomstar with the Big 10. Australian Buckaroonies says, what's the story behind the butterscotch cult? Bro, I wish I knew. At this point, it's been so long that none of us know the origins. It's just an unidentified mystery that I don't even think any anthropologist could ever dig through the scrolls of history to find. Not even the Akashic Records would know. Don't go beyond the rickety bridge. You'll get lost. What do you guys think? What do you guys think the origins of the Buttersock cult is? Where did it all start? Why hasn't Ballin done a video of Terrare? What's that? Ask me any Bible question, I'll answer. Okay, let's see. Why, whenever those little kids made fun of Moses, did God send a bunch of bears to tear them to pieces? What's up with that? Also, was the Leviathan actually a Stegosaurus? It wasn't Moses. Who was it? Noah? Let's ask ChatGPT. I get them mixed up from time to time. In the Bible, who was made fun of by children and God sent bears to kill them? The story you're referring to is found in 2 Kings 2, 23, 25. The prophet Elijah was mocked by a group of young boys as he traveling to Bethel. They taunted him by saying, "Go up, you bald head. Go up, you bald head." Elijah then called down a curse in the name of the Lord, and 2 female bears came out of the wood and mauled 42 of the boys. There you go, guys. Don't make fun of bald people, or you will be mauled to death by mother bears. Saw Mr. Ballin in San Antonio today with weeks ago. Nice. See, traveling. Leviathan was an ancient Near Eastern chaos god. Watch Ben Stanhope's video. Stanhope? The comedian? Or is that Doug Stanhope? 2 Kings 2, 23 to 25. I think, yeah, after that, in that exact book, they talk about Goatman versus Mothman to really settle who wins. Revelations talks about Slender Man. It's kind of crazy that the creepypasta community has stolen all of their content, essentially, from the Bible. The Bible. What do you think about the Jehovah's Witnesses as a whole? I mean, I honestly don't know much about them. I've had more interactions with like Mormons coming to my door than like Jehovah's. So I can't really say. I mean, I've heard of people who said that like their family members were Jehovah's Witnesses, so they could like, I don't know, never did holidays or never donated blood or something like that. Hey, Peter, welcome back for 8 months. Has brought my King James version for the Bible study. Good. We can compare notes. How do you prepare yourself for these live streams? I'm sure talking and reading into a microphone for hours could dry you out. Oh, believe me, I'm very moist. Endlessly moist. I don't know, I guess I'm just built for yapping. I sometimes do get a bit of like a vocal squeak going. But I usually stay pretty Gucci. Alright, friends. This is going to be interesting tonight. There are quite a few words in this one, so it might be a longer stream than usual. We shall see. Yeah, moist but no critical. I was critically moist. Okay. Let me just record 10 seconds of silence for the troops. Killer Frequency. Oh yeah, isn't Killer Frequency like a mystery game where you play as a ghost or something that like solves murders or something like that? Or like you have paranormal powers to solve. I forget what I'm thinking about. I'm a Jehovah's Witness, and okay, look, blood is life. Also listen, the law, worldly holidays are from the devil. If you think about it, Jesus was not born on December 25th whatsoever. Just do research. It's very fastening. Yeah, I don't know. I have no problem with what people believe or what they're into and what they're against and all that kind of stuff, as long as they don't hurt anybody. But I think Christmas rocks. You know, honestly, if we could have Christmas in July, even if they just like made up some weird paganistic bullshit, I would go along with it if it meant that I got to eat good food and get another Xbox. Eddie Murphy and Nutty Professor. That's exactly who I was going for. You don't observe Christmas. I don't just observe Christmas. I am Christmas. I am Santa Claus. What do I think about Moist Critical? I like what's his name? Tyler? No. John? No. What the fuck is his name? How do I forget his name? Charlie. Jesus Christ. I knew it was something like that. It's like a grandpa's name. Charles. I like Charles. I don't watch his content or anything like that. But I've, you know, nothing against him. Nothing to say, really, I guess. Sometimes, like, people talk about him like sitting the fence on some stuff, and I guess that's true, but I was thinking about that, and like, look how many views Charlie gets. I want to show this real quick. Moist Critical. I can't even fucking find this. Oh yeah, it's Penguins 0, right? Penguins 0. Okay. He gets 158.403 million views a month. Like, okay. Let's see. How much money is million views on YouTube? Obviously there's variations. Geography, niche, watch time, monetization, approximately. Wait. Okay. So yeah, like per month, let's see. Per month he's making potentially over $600,000 a month. Times 12 is analyzing. Oh my god, this is slower than a calculator. So yeah, potentially Charlie could be making somewhere between like $7 to $10 million a year. You know what I mean? So whenever people say he sits the fence, bro, if I was making $7 fucking million a year, I'd probably sit the fence too, if I was afraid what Reddit was gonna think of me or something like that. You know what I mean? And yeah, I am fine with people being boring if they're rich. You can do whatever you want. Imagine how much Mr. Beast is making. Yeah, it's I don't know. I guess if anything, maybe it motivates you guys to try to do YouTube. I think you guys should do YouTube. I mean, like if you look at Charlie's shit, it's literally him just sitting in front of his computer saying like poo poo kiki kaka funny nonsense commentary, which, you know, he is a funny guy and, you know, nice, thoughtful individual with a good personality, etc. But that could be you. That literally could be you doing the exact same thing, editing with Sony Vegas, you know, the shittiest fucking editing program ever. I say that because I use that and it's terrible. Yeah. It should inspire you. Based on sheer probability, I'm probably somewhat like you. I'm a male in my mid-20s, currently lying down in bed, posting from a laptop with a rather annoying head cold, breathing entirely through my mouth. I live in the southeastern United States, I'm listening to some music that I enjoy, and I work at a decent job that pays me only slightly above minimum wage, and I struggle to make it month to month. And there is nothing magical about me. Now then, since we've established that I'm not a special snowflake, and hopefully you've related to some aspect of what I said about myself, I need to tell a story and explain a few things to you all. The vast majority of the posters here are all role players. The majority of people starting threads about magic, demons, ghosts, aliens, the occult, thelema, and paranormal experiences as a whole are speaking from a standpoint of suspended disbelief and speculation on events that have not personally... Damn, that was such a long paragraph of words. What is thelema? Why don't you like Jesus? No, I like Jesus. I do. Please don't hurt me. Don't hurt me. Forbo, thelema. Oh, just thelema. Okay. Thelma. I don't know. Let's see. What is... It must be some sort of cult person. Western occult, esoteric philosophy, and new religious movement that emphasize discovering and following one's true will. Thelema's central tenet is do what thou wilt, which means that Thelemites should do what they want as long as it's not harmful to others. Hey, I can get down with thelema. Started by Aleister Crowley in 1904 in Cairo, Egypt. Interesting. The majority of people starting threads about magic, demons, ghosts, aliens, the occult, thelema, and paranormal experiences as a whole are speaking from a standpoint of suspended disbelief and speculation on events that have not personally... Damn it. I literally made the same exact mistake. Why does that look like a the instead of a they? The majority of people starting threads about magic, demons, ghosts, aliens, the occult, thelema, and paranormal experiences as a whole are speaking from a standpoint of suspended disbelief and speculation on events they have not personally witnessed. Purely for the sake of conversation, I'll use an example. It is akin to how I would describe Buckingham Palace. I've never been to England, or even out of the US for that matter, but I know Buckingham Palace exists. I can picture it in my mind's eye, but I've never actually seen the palace. Many of its nuances are just unknowable to me because I've never been there to experience its beauty and depth. And this is how most people are experiencing the paranormal, through their mind's eye, in their imagination. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with creativity. But every once in a while, someone comes around these parts who has had first-hand contact with something they can't explain, some sort of experience that just doesn't quite fit into their worldview. The memory sits and grows in their brain, trying to assimilate like a square peg trying to enter a round hole, and that, my friends, changes a person. Destroyer Lynn with the 2 says, starting a new job tomorrow. Super excited. Nice, Lynn. Congratulations. What is your job going to entail? And that, my friends, changes a person. It really does. There's a different vibe, if you will, after someone experiences the paranormal. Everything remains the same on the outside, but inside, something is different. To the general public, these people are normal, but to those who have brushed shoulders with the ethereal, they glow in the dark, so to speak. I would look like a normal person if you ran into me on the street or came into my job and ordered a cup of coffee. However, if you met me, you'd know immediately that something was definitely going on. And this has been my experience time and time again. Now stay with me here. Remember how I related to you in the beginning of this thread? Nothing about that changes. Nothing about that is different. I'm no better, worse, or more special than you. I'm not a messiah, a light being, a vampire, or alien. The only difference between you and I is that I've seen things in the real world that I can't explain and simply don't have the answers to. I've experienced things that don't fit into my concepts of reality, life, or anything logical, and they frankly don't make sense in my mind. On nights like these, when I think about those things, they resurface and they won't go away. The square peg tries to force itself through the round hole, but it doesn't fit. I've done a great deal of trying to forget about these things, and it doesn't work. The memories are always there, tugging at the back of my mind and lurking around in my subconscious like specters in the night. And this is what this thread is about, and it's high time that I spoke about what happened. It's high time that I told someone the truth. This is not a ask me anything thread. This is not an attention-seeking thread. This is not a role play. This is me recounting the experiences that took place in my life between 2009 and 2011 as accurately as I can remember them, in the hopes that someone on this board takes what they can from it. Now, based on sheer probability, I'm probably just like, wait, what? No. Wait, what?
Mischievous dog.
Wait, why did it repeat? Oh my god. Ah, shit. The fucking editing.
Mischievous dog.
What the fuck? How did it... How did that repeat itself? What the fuck? Sorry, guys. That's sad. Okay, I think we found the next part. Christine B., welcome back for 6 months. As this person seems like someone who likes the sound of their own voice. Who, me? Oh, this writer, yeah, probably. Sometimes the 4chan threads can just keep rambling. But welcome back. Thank you for 6 months. And C Money, welcome to the Buttersock Cult. Have ever been to Mexico? I have not, no. Do I believe any of the stories I read or I think they're made up? I believe all of them. I think they're all realer than real. They're hyper real. For the sake of trying to keep this readable and not a short novel, I'll break down the backstory as much as possible into key points. It's mid-2009. I've just turned 19. I just got out of an emotionally abusive relationship with a girl I was planning to marry. She got increasingly unstable as time went on until a serious self-termination attempt from her raised red flags for me to leave and get her help. That failed, and she is faring rather poorly to this day, and this had me put... and this had put me in a near constant state of depression, and I turned to drinking to numb my feelings. As time went on, I became unable to function without liquor daily, and I was subsequently kicked out of college due to being too drunk to make it to class, much less pass any exams. This began a 6-month-long bender where I was drunk nearly every day and pretty much living wherever I happened to fall down that night. I was eventually picked up by the police shortly before my 20th birthday for a DUI, among other charges, and I was given the option of out-of-state rehabilitation in a halfway house or a mandatory 6 months in jail and a hefty fine. I obviously chose rehab and moved 1,000 miles away from my small hometown, leaving behind anyone who knew or cared about me, into a strange new frontier in a big city. No, I will not be disclosing locations. It isn't important. I made it through rehab after an absolutely horrible detoxification process and moved into a halfway house full of the most insane people I've ever met. These people were lunatics, and I mean that in every sense of the word. Living in a halfway house, you learn all kinds of things about humanity. For example, some people don't shower more than once a week. Others cannot leave their home unless they have meticulously groomed every area of their body and are looking fine. More importantly, some people are perfectly content living a lie for their entire lives. It's acceptable to them. I wasn't there long before I met the resident psycho, Jason. Now, Jason was a guy a few years older than me. All of the other residents said that he was nuts and involved with a cult and to stay away from him, but when I finally sat down, Jason didn't sound crazy to me. He glowed in the dark, like I mentioned earlier. The things he said and the way he lived his life seemed infinitely interesting to me. We grew to be acquaintances over many late-night cigars and metaphysical conversations. Jason, albeit with his quirks, seemed like the least insane person in a 10-mile radius to me. Eventually, he asked me to join him at a meeting of the group. At a meeting? Oh, there we go. Sleepy Guerrero, welcome back for 17 months. I've been able to catch the lives for a few weeks already, but I'm glad to have made it to this one. Hope everyone's been doing okay. You're doing good, my friend. Thank you for 17 months. It's good to see you. How you doing? What's new? And Terry, welcome back for 29 months. Hi, Joel. Hello. What's new? Where you been? Oh, shit. Casey the Cannibal. Thank you for 10 gifted memberships to Starman, Cosmos, Brain Sick Solution, Linda Lee U123, AJ Jimenez, Perpetua, Deborah, and Andrew Palmer. Thank you so much, Casey. You guys now have access to bonus content. Be sure to thank Casey for their kind support. Hey, CripplePunk91 with the 10 says, Joel, my love, it's Molly. Long time no see or hear. I miss you, and I'm glad to be back. I hope all is well. Going good. I saw your PFP, and I was like, that's Molly. Thank you for coming back. What's happening? You guys are very kind tonight. Ever done Ouija board stories? I have, but it's been quite a while. Would you rather be shipped in a box with no air across the country or stuck in a locker for 48 hours? Well, I guess if it didn't have air, I wouldn't make it, you know? Wasn't in the best of moods when I got to work tonight, but whenever I listen to your stories and just you talk to people, it always cheers me up. Thank you. You're welcome, Charles. What's going on? Eventually, he asked me to join him at a meeting of the group that he was involved in. I was a bit wary given all the cult talk, and I figured that I'd just go with him to see what was going on. What followed began the most insane 2 years of my life. If I could have seen the future then, and where I would be today in my mental state, I would have taken the 6 months in the slammer and kept slamming back shots afterward because I never knew what I was getting myself into, browsing X and wishing I could experience something, anything out of the ordinary. I wish I could go back. Oh, damn, somebody. These are long fucking paragraph sentences, but I guess they work per se, but it's just awkward how long it is. He had a friend pay $30 for all-you-can-eat sushi. Dude, all-you-can-eat sushi is like the best ever. Have I ever used one? I remember, like, my freshman year of college, my roommates wanted to go to a graveyard and play with the Ouija board. And I was kind of nervous, but I also kind of wanted to try it. Nothing happened, thankfully. But it was kind of, I don't know, just silly, I guess. Jessica Bulliard. Thank you for the 2. Would you rather free DoorDash for life or free sushi for life? Probably free DoorDash because it gives options. Also, I like those hypotheticals, the positive ones, not the ones where I'm always like getting my cock chopped off or something. What am I reading from? These are 4chan stories actually, but normally I'd be reading from stories that are submitted. If I could have seen the future then and where I would be today in my mental state, I would have taken the 6 months in the slammer and kept slamming back shots afterward because I knew what I was getting myself into browsing X and wishing I could experience something, anything out of the ordinary. I wish I could go back. I wish that I never saw any of it. It's a curse to me. And the meeting was fairly small, primarily younger guys. I think the oldest was maybe 33, which is extremely odd, as most... sorry, I got confused there for a second. I think the oldest was 33, which was extremely odd, as most AA meetings are populated by significantly older people, 50 plus. I was pretty happy because being 20 and talking to a leather-faced old man about trying to get sober really sucked, and I immediately noticed that I felt better being there. These guys were cool, all with the same aura as Jason, except Jason was the newbie here. Most of them were a year plus in the group, and they were pretty interesting. They spoke with conviction about what they were doing, that they had discovered a foolproof method of sobriety, and that all other methods were inherently flawed and selfish. I felt the same way because AA is a bunch of bull. I was intrigued. Jesus Christ. I was so intrigued. Would you rather fight in the American Civil War or fight in the First World War? Oh, man. Probably the American Civil War, honestly. World War I just seemed like such hell. Being stuck in those trenches for months at a time and then essentially having your leadership just tell you to go die. Climb over the top and just die. Or like fall into a bunch of mud. Get gangrene in your sock. I'm a security guard at a large mine complex. Apparently it's haunted and we have had many deaths here over the years. I've heard lots of really odd stuff but never saw anything. Yeah, that's sad to hear there's been many deaths. Just because it's sad to think that people will just go to work and die. I felt the same way because AA is a bunch of BS, and I was intrigued. What sold me the most was how happy these people seemed. I was literally torn apart emotionally and numb to pretty much everything, and since I had quit drinking, I woke up wanting to die every single day. I wanted the joy these people had, so I was advised to get a sponsor. And I eventually asked a guy to sponsor me, personally show me the ropes and help me stay sober, and he gave me a set of ritualized instructions to help me to call him tomorrow and we'd go from there. I noticed that there were pairs of people standing, walking around, sitting all over the place, and nobody was sitting alone or left out. My sponsor explained that these were called one-on-ones and that if I ever hoped to stay sober, I should get in one immediately. So I walked around and found the one person who was alone, and he was sitting in the back, smoking a cigar and playing a game on a cell phone. I introduced myself and he asked me to sit down and start talking. I started rattling off about my screwed up life and he didn't budge. He looked at me sometime later after I was done and stared right through me, that 1,000-yard stare. He said, "Listen, I know your life sucked. In fact, I know all about you. Your name's Chris, your parents are still together, you've had a pet die, Even though you manage to date women, you're insecure, and I even know that you probably have a sibling that's better than you. I know this because I've known a million Chris's. The vast majority of them are dead right now. Yeah, all my friends from when I got into AA are dead, in prison or drunk, and they've dropped off the grid except one. One out of hundreds. If you don't want to end up that way, I suggest that you do whatever your sponsor tells you, or go ahead and blow your brains out right now. Do your family a favor. And this went on for about 30 minutes. The thing about this is that he was dead on. He told me the truth, and that was terrifying. I've never seen anyone look at me the way he did. He didn't break eye contact for 30 minutes. He pulled out all the thoughts that I was having in that conversation and laid them out before me and dissected them, explaining why they were wrong. I'd have never been so out of sorts in my entire life. And as I walked away, smoking what felt like my millionth cigarette, I must have looked like a ghost. It turns out that guy started the group. Cameron had been sober for more than a decade and had sufficiently put the fear of God into me. My sponsor put me back together, drove me home, and reminded me to start the set of directions that he had given me, the ritual, in the morning. One thought crossed my mind here. How did he know those things? There's no way it's just from studying people. He was dead on. Either way, I want to do that. Either way, I want to do that. Wow. And I found out how. To glaze over around 8 or more posts of explanations, I did the ritual, and I went to meetings every single day and night. I was coaxed to move out of my halfway house shortly after Jason did to join him on a senior member's living room floor. Total immersion, he said. And by this point, I had been sober for about 6 months. They had explained that the main concept of the group was other-centeredness or service to others, and that the knowledge that I had about staying sober was priceless. They painted me into a corner, and I had no choice but to comply. I had to recruit people, or I had no place to stay. And I was convinced to drop all contact with my family. I was convinced to cut off my old friends, and I was totally immersed in this new lifestyle which involved more and more esoteric principles and occult ideals, illuminism, ego destruction, guru worship. That's a hard one to say. Goo-woo-woo-woo. Goo-woo? He's my favorite goo-woo. The Hunter's Moon happens this week, supposedly the brightest supermoon of 2024, also known as the Blood Moon. Perfect. Perfect time for some crazy shit to happen in the world. You know what's insane? The fact that in Pennsylvania here we saw the Northern Lights. And I kind of want to know why. I mean, I know it was like activity from the sun, but why did Pennsylvania see the Northern Lights so clear this week? Yeah, Pennsylvania. This past weekend, Pennsylvania experienced unusually clear views of the Northern Lights due to a significant geomagnetic storm impacting Earth. On October 10th, 2024, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, issued a G4 severe geomagnetic storm watch following a fast coronal mass ejection from the sun. Such strong geomagnetic storms can extend the auroral oval, the area where the northern lights are visible, much further south than usual, allowing residents in Pennsylvania to witness the spectacle. Typically, the northern lights are confined to the polar regions, but during intense geomagnetic events, they can become visible in lower latitudes. The G4 storm in October 2024 was among the most severe in recent decades, making the aurora visible across much of the northern United States, including Pennsylvania. Additionally, clear weather conditions over the weekend provided optimal viewing. Are the magnetic poles shifting? Yes, the Earth's magnetic poles are shifting. The Earth's magnetic field is dynamic and constantly changing due to the movement of molten iron and other metals in the Earth's outer core, which generates the magnetic field. This movement caused the magnetic poles to gradually drift. The North Magnetic Pole has been moving at an accelerated pace in recent years, shifting from the Canadian Arctic towards Siberia. Historically, the pole drifted at a relatively slow pace, but since the 1990s, its speed has increased significantly, currently moving at about 50 to 60 kilometers per year. This phenomenon is part of a natural process and has occurred throughout Earth's history. There have been times where the magnetic poles have completely reversed, an event known as the geomagnetic reversal. These reversals happen irregularly, with the last full reversal occurring approximately 780,000 years ago. Although the poles are shifting, a full geomagnetic reversal is not imminent according to current scientific understanding, and the timeline for such an event is uncertain. Yeah, that's interesting, because I mean, like, that's why they see it in the poles, because they're the, magnetic, what do they call it? The magnetosphere or whatever. Is at like its thinnest, so whenever like the radiation that's shot out from the sun with those coronal mass ejections kind of glazes over top of the Earth and is protected by that magnetic field, but it's very thin there. So it's interesting to think that the poles would be shifting and then basically changing, kind of like I imagine that's kind of like probably plays a huge factor into like why we're seeing like differences in weather patterns as well. I feel like that's something that people don't take into consideration as much as just like the natural activity of the Earth, but also the activity of the sun. I don't know. Seen all over the world, even here in Texas. I saw a pole shift. Oh my god, I could feel the time we had the equinox biggest class, a CME. Oh, coronal mass ejection. It was crazy. I read that the most similar planet to Earth is Kepler 452b. Where's that at? I was convinced to cut off my old friends. I was totally immersed in this new lifestyle, which involved more and more esoteric principles and occult ideals, illuminism, ego destruction, guru worship, gnosis, etc., as time went on. The thing about all of this is that my 20-year-old mind could not take well to it. I had a lot of difficulty in the beginning, but eventually got on the horse after some more hard conditioning. I was subjected to conversations like Cameron had with me the first night, every night, and then put back together, effectively painting the group as both nurturer and attacker, fulfilling all of my needs. Elaborate setups to bring me close to a person and then rip them away. I got into a relationship with a girl, and just as things were getting good, Cameron banned all women from the group, and not even kidding. God damn it. Elaborate setups to bring me close to a person and then just rip them away. I got into a relationship with a girl, and just as things were getting good, Cameron banned all women from the group, not even kidding. And eventually I broke down and accepted the conditioning, and right here is where things get into that inexplicable. Eventually, I broke down and accepted the conditioning, and right here is where things get into that unexplainable category. I was doing everything. I was doing the ritual, I was recruiting and sponsoring people, and all of a sudden, I felt it. I was having a one-on-one with one of the guys I brought in, and boom, there it was. I felt gnosis. I felt the presence of God coursing through my veins and filling my body. It was like a powerful waterfall of pure love, and light was crashing down upon my soul. I wasn't speaking my words anymore. I was somewhere else, reveling in the beauty of this experience. It was like I was floating above myself, watching myself smoke cigarettes and blow this new guy's mind. And you should have seen it. I'm this 20-year-old kid sitting across from a 45-year-old heroin addict with a fire in my eyes, talking about things that I have no business knowing about in his life. He's visibly shaken, and he can tell something's up, and he can feel it too. I drifted there, listening to words that were meant for a while. Oops. Bliss Fizz, what's up? SpaceX catch the rocket booster back on the landing pad. Did it really? They've been trying to do that for a long time, right? Or they have it figured out for a while? I drifted there, listening to words that weren't mine for a while, and when I finally slid back into my body, I stood up shakily and said, "Well, I guess our conversation's over because I'm out of things to say. Call me tomorrow, Richie. I'll pick you up." And he just mumbled okay and shook his head. Oh, wait. And he just mumbled okay and shook my hand and walked away. It looked like he had just watched me grow a second head, and I immediately went to go find my sponsor, and I told him about the situation, and he just sort of smirked and told me to go find Cameron, interrupt him and have a one-on-one with him. Cameron was like the untouchable top rung of the hierarchy, so I knew this was big news, and I usually had no reason to speak to him and frankly didn't want to, since most of our conversations involved him picking apart my brain and freaking me out. And so I found Cameron sitting alone, nearly identical to where I found him on the first night that I ever came out with Jason. It felt like an eternity ago that... Damn, dude. It felt like an eternity ago that I was reluctantly getting into a car with the halfway house's crazy guy. I sat down next to Cameron and asked if I could talk. I told him what had happened, and he stopped what he was doing, laughed for a bit, and looked at me. That eye contact still haunts me to this day. He said, "You felt it on that first night, didn't you? You could tell that something here was off. You could tell that when I was speaking to you and smashing your worldview that something wasn't quite right there. You could feel the presence of something bigger and scarier and infinitely more complex than you, something more complex than you could ever imagine, like it was sitting right here with us, yet as invisible as thin air. That interested you, didn't it? You wouldn't be here right now if it didn't." And he handed me a cigar, and I could tell this was going to be a long talk. In fact, through puffs of his cigar, you can feel that same thing right now, sitting here talking to me. You just had poor Richie more interested than any therapist, drug counselor, or social worker ever did on his second night of sobriety. You really think some 20-year-old punk-ass kid can do that? Well, heads up. You can't. What you just experienced was what the Buddha referred to as nirvana. You were at the exact right frequency, and you were involved enough in your conversation that your ego was totally out of the way. And that's the barrier, if you can dig it, the human condition. We block ourselves off from God and the other side by getting our heads so far up our asses that we can't even see the light of day anymore. The presence of God is a beautiful thing, and you have to really understand something here, Chris. The world isn't ready to understand that they are the problem. We are, as alcoholics. It's an undeniable fact. We can say that for sure and not even worry about it. The problem is that you open the door now, and there's frankly no way of telling what's going to come through. We don't even know how to shut it. There's no telling what you're going to run into. Just hang on for the ride. You've done LSD before, right? Well, life is about to kick acid's ass. As I listened to all of this, I was dumbfounded, partly because of his demeanor. This wasn't about ripping me apart. This was him talking to me man to man, but it was still horrifying. The implication of this, my God. I listened on as he talked about his experiences. He spoke of 732 being the true numerical skeleton key. He talked about the significance of the number 12. He talked about numerous spiritual principles and laws, and he talked about seeing the future and being able to read other people's thoughts, and he did it to me as I was sitting there with him. He talked about how his sponsees were in the process of doing the same thing. He told me that he was going to help me hone these abilities and that I should stick close by Mike, a good friend of mine in the group with roughly the same amount of sobriety time. I was about to move into Cameron's living room with Mike that night. We were to rotate between the couch and the floor, and our first night there, we both separately experienced extremely vivid, nearly identical DMT-like hallucinations of malevolent entities, astral projection, and lucid dreaming. We were unaware that one another had done so until the next night at AA when I spoke to him about the experience. Hanging out with Mike, now this was all in the early to mid 2012s. Trapped in a snowstorm with no clothes or trapped in a heat wave fully clothed? I guess a heat wave, probably. Ever thought about narrating on Audible? I thought about it, but I feel like it would just take way too much time, you know? Hanging out with Mike, now this was all in early to mid 2012, was when things went from, okay, I'm for sure in a cult, to, oh my god, these guys are actually onto something, what the hell do I do? And we experienced a lot together, always after good nights in AA when the presence of God thing would happen. It was March 29th, though, that really stands out to me. We were watching King of the Hill on late night TV, and we both commented how strange of an episode it was. I didn't remember ever seeing it before. I don't even remember the storyline now that I'm thinking about it, and I remember it was like we were watching a really bad cut episode where there was no transition music and the characters moved in really choppy stop-motion type animation. I remember thinking about 732 since I had been thinking about it a lot, when, all of a sudden, I felt something in the room. Something menacing. I looked over at Mike, and he apparently saw it too. We were both clearly shaken, and then it was like we were both peaking on acid out of nowhere. I was hallucinating, eyes open, not sleeping, along with my friend, who verified afterward that it was in fact a real experience. We were there as a blooming fractal entity. God damn it. We were there as a blooming fractal entity morphed out of the wall, seemingly laughing. It opened its mouth wide and doubled back as if it was eating itself whole, and it kept doing this over and over, and we were both frozen into the couch. It got so maddeningly close that it was almost touching my face, and, oh God, I'm falling into the abyss of that horrible mouth, and what if I never get out? And then it all faded out. All of a sudden, we were back to normal, and nothing wrong except we were both still fully aware of what was happening. I was on the verge of tears. The screwed up King of the Hill episode was still playing, and I cut the TV off and went outside. Peggy, these boys ain't right. God dang it. Have you been taking that LSD again?
But Dad, these people are really on to something.
The screwed up King of the Hill episode was still playing. I cut the TV off and went outside to smoke. Mike came too, but we didn't really say anything to each other. We both knew that something had happened and it wasn't going to do either of us any good to talk about it. And that kind of thing happened several more times to me, at least. I don't know about Mike, I never mentioned it to him anymore, and I never mentioned that it kept happening to anybody until right now. Anyway, life continued on. So I'm sponsoring people now, and I'm moving on and trying to get them to experiences. God damn it. Hitsubasa, welcome back for 21 months. Hank asking, is this the cult? Are you guys all huffing propane? That's fine by me. So, I'm sponsoring people now, and I'm moving on and trying to get them to experience this. Now, one kid does, and he flew halfway across the country the next night and told me to never contact him again. It scared him so bad. And now is probably a good time to mention that the cult recruiting really picked up, to the point of grabbing homeless dudes off the streets and self-detoxing them. If you know anything about alcohol detox, you know that someone who's coming off the sauce needs to be in a hospital. Someone who has been drinking daily for 20 years and abruptly stops should be dead. Miraculously, no one did. However, several people did leave and drink themselves to death as a result of the cult's extremely intrusive nature. I don't know if you've ever had anyone digging around in your mind without your consent, but it's very unsettling. Meanwhile, synchronicity in my life was really off the charts. I could barely go 10 minutes without thinking about something, and then someone would bring up the subject, talking about an old friend and having them call out of the blue during the conversation, completely unprompted. Dreaming about new stories before they happened, checking the clock every single 32 minutes for 12 hours straight, unintentionally, etc., etc. And then in July, shit hit the fan. Tensions within the group were at an all-time high. My best friend in the group, Mike, was banned for life for refusing to detox a homeless guy in his house, and I was livid. This guy had put in 18 months of non-stop labor and help for the group, and they just tossed him out like last week's trash. Screw that. I got pissed and I got rebellious, and I cursed out a lot of people that night and planned to leave. A week later, my job was gone, my cash was depleted, I was out of smokes, and I was ready to self-terminate. So, I feel it LSD always makes me happy. I don't always like the feeling of weakness that comes with it, but LSD is something everyone should try. Oh yes, DMT is my jam. Just be careful of the yellow world. The yellow world with the minions. Please do George's voice. Everybody loves Raymond TV show, his brothers. Raymond. Raymond. Oh. Oh no, Ray. Raymond. Hey Rose, thank you. Good to see you. Why are you freezing so much? Like the stream? I think I have it set, pay for your PC. Here's, change your settings so that it's not at 720p or whatever it is. Set it down to like 480 and it might not glitch as much. Because I have it set to like a lower latency thing, so I can like interact with you guys at a faster rate. What's up, Cody? A week later, my job was gone, my cash was depleted, and I was out of smokes, and I was ready to take my own life. So I feel it necessary to describe what my life looked like at this point and some of the things the cult had done before continuing on with the story. I had learned to do some entry-level thought manipulation with newcomers. I learned a lot about how to make an impression on people and lead them to where I wanted them to be. I had gotten quite good at these things, and I was basking in what I believed was the presence of God and doing whatever they said because, hey, this was finally paranormal as hell for me. But there was a lot of deception used in the recruitment process, and it was always nagging at me that I was flat out lying to a lot of people when they asked about who I was and what I did and why I was trying to take them out to a meeting. Then, there were the things going on within the group that I didn't feel comfortable with. The older members of the group were manipulating the women. They were allowed back in after about 8 months and were basically setting up arranged relationships between male members of themselves to further control them. People who were clearly paranoid schizophrenics were being taken off of their medication and being praised for being actually sober, as if taking their medication counted as using drugs or alcohol. The same deal was self-terminating depressed newcomers. There were several self-termination attempts in my home when there were guys coming off of their meds, and I got to know the police in my neighborhood as a detox type of guy. Halfway houses are very common in the area that I was in, so they didn't really think much of some junkies trying to take their own lives or blowing a casket when they started with the delirium tremens. Oh man, there's so much to read. Sweet mama. What's up, Jess? What is the yellow world? Yeah, what is the yellow world? Couldn't stay with him, but they would meet again, and they were robes and hoods, and their faces, or well, they didn't have faces, really, they had hoods, or their faces looked like. Is that the yellow world? Who said that? I'm way too caked to wipe standing up. That's funny. Caked up on a Sunday night. Need to stop drinking. Yeah, you need to stop drinking. You need to stop smoking. People need to just not take drugs, man. Just the dependency that it creates within your body is just so fucked. I don't really know about weed, but I mean, definitely you don't get withdrawals when you stop weed, but it can certainly affect your brain after using it for so long. Would you rather sweet tea or lemonade? Can we mix them together? 11 days sober? Nice, Jonah. Weed is very bad if you're a teenager. I have heard that, like, using it as a teenager affects your brain development. But also, just in general, all the kids that I knew in high school who, like, smoked a lot of weed or whatever, the path that they took in life certainly wasn't the greatest outcome, per se. And oddly enough, not necessarily oddly enough, but sadly enough, many of them later on became heroin addicts. So, like, even though they say weed's not a gateway drug, it definitely kind of creates some of the cultures that can become gateways that lead people into, like, other things like pills and shit, you know what I mean? Like anything to not feel sober, which can in and of itself become addictive and dangerous. You can definitely withdraw from weed. I have a friend who, when he doesn't smoke, he gets the chills and gets very irritated. Oh, yeah, maybe. Joel, can you say, "Zoo-wee mama," in a Raleigh Jefferson voice? Who's Raleigh Jefferson? Never heard of him. The yellow world is a place that you can go to where faces look really scary and everything is like tinted yellow. And when you try to smoke more in D&T, you don't want to blow out any smoke. Are you the only person that's ever gone there, Jeff? Has anybody else been to the yellow world? I don't know if I'm going to go to the yellow world. Halfway houses are very common in the area that I was in, so they didn't really think much of some junkies trying to take their own lives or blowing a gasket when they started with the whole delirium and tremors. I was fine up until they kicked Mike out. I was able to look past a lot, but this was just something I couldn't rationalize away. They had done something that went against the core principles of what they claimed to be for, and that opened up the floodgates for the rest of the faults to be found with them. I voiced my opinion on the situation loudly in front of the newcomers and to multiple people, and the next few days at AA involved the most intense rip-downs for me that I'd ever seen. There was no putting back together. It was just them attempting to break me down before I could make the decision to leave. One night after a particularly rough night at AA, I was sitting outside contemplating what to do. I looked at the sky and watched the clouds rolling overhead, and the incredibly clear night sky behind them showcased a star. It appeared to be flashing several colors and hovered and moved. I had seen the exact same star lying in the back seat of my ex-girlfriend's car after one final hookup before I left town, the girl I mentioned at the beginning of this thread. I got the distinct thought of, it's calling me home, and I made my decision. Now note, I don't know if this was reality or the effects of my brain operating under extreme duress and trying to rationalize going against years of ritualized conditioning and potentially drugs. It isn't verifiable by anyone else, so I guess I might never know. I sold my laptop that day to a pawn shop and got enough cash to buy a plane ticket. Over the next few days at AA, I played it cool and just made all the right noises to avoid rousing suspicion. I told one person about my plans, and that was the only person that I thought that I could feel safe letting know. He helped me get a suitcase to pack my stuff and gave me a ride to the airport. He was only sober for a few months at this time, and he got out as well. The night before I left, I was so nervous that I could feel my skin crawling. I tried to play it cool, but when I spoke to people, I couldn't really look them in the eyes for too long, and the charade was getting hard to maintain. One guy flat out asked me, "Hey, Chris, you planning on going anywhere?" "I hope not, 'cause I'd miss you." And just gave me this look. I played it off and got out of there safe. I stayed up that entire night praying, and I had never hoped that things would be alright as hard as I did that night. I grabbed my stuff at 4 a.m. and walked outside, and I could have chickened out at any moment. I could have lost it in any second and stayed there, but I didn't. I made it on the plane and landed in my hometown about 8 hours later, and I have been attempting to move on with my life ever since. It's been a little under a year now, and things are getting better than I expected. I still haven't had a drink. My first few months, however, were plagued with this terrible feeling. It was like I was going against the grain of life. I was doing something wrong, and I was marked for death because I betrayed the group. That faded with the help of good medication-free therapy, and I can rationalize being in a cult. I can rationalize any number of things. I can't rationalize the presence I've experienced and the things I've seen. They tear me apart under the surface every day. I can't move on until I find some answers, and that's what this thread is really for. Answers. Psychiatry can attempt to tell me that I was under stress and I saw things because of that, but when two or more people have the same hallucination and corroborate it without any prompting from the other, it stops being a hallucination and starts becoming objective reality. I know what I saw that night with Mike. I know that Cameron wasn't just a good mentalist, and I know what I felt in those one-on-ones was unspeakably powerful, beautiful, and horrifying. I made this thread because when I finally made it home, I went to be alone and reflect in the woods, and I sat and thought and thought and thought, trying to put it into proper terms, but the experience just wouldn't fit. I sat there for hours, smoking cigarettes and thinking, and eventually I was crying, and I cried until my throat was numb. I couldn't make it fit into my defined worldview, and that was repulsive to me. It occurred to me that this wasn't going to get me anywhere, and I sighed and wiped my eyes and checked my phone, and the clock read 7:32. It may have been a coincidence, it may have been a cruel joke from otherworldly beings, and it may have been God himself telling me that he was there, watching out for me, but it didn't matter. That was it. It was just too much for one person to handle at one time. I saw that number and I screamed, and I kept screaming. And thank God I was pretty deep in the woods and nobody could hear me because I was literally shrieking and on the verge of madness. My mind just couldn't handle any more of that, and I ran for what felt like hours until I emerged on the far side of the forest near a well-lit grocery store. I'm sitting here, really thinking about this for the first time since it happened, and I'm feeling that same paralyzing fear in my pit. Well, would you rather 500 push-ups or 500 sit-ups? I feel like 500 sit-ups might... No, I don't know. Actually, that's a good question. What would you guys do?
It's me, your boy. What's up, Rex?
Also, I made a mistake during this, which means I owe you guys. You know the rules. What the crap is pumpkin beer? Yeah, I don't remember it tasting that good, but they do make pumpkin beer.
Hey, thank you, let's read.
And welcome, Eric, Mark Honea, Antonio Gomez, Michelle Abbott, Toxic, Nana Bear, Zoe S., Ashlyn Cormier, Iggy Van Zant, David the Crow. Welcome, friends. You now have access to bonus content. Does anyone here like Call of the Lamb? Yeah, were you talking about it yesterday? Someone was talking about it yesterday and said it was very good. Would you rather live in your car or in your backyard? I guess my backyard. Maybe I could just camp. I'm sitting here, really thinking about this for the first time since it happened, and I'm feeling that same paralyzing fear in the pit of my stomach. My heart is beating so fast that I feel like it's hammering out of my chest, and my mind is spinning around like one of those carnival rides, slowly coming off the hinges, and I can't stop it. The only thing I can do is scream because I'm stuck along for the ride, and this is really tough for me to even think about. Forgive me. Now, to make this long story short, I told the family that I was staying with that I had been involved. Now, to make a long story short, I told the family that I was staying with that I had been involved with a group of radicals in Florida and needed to see a psychiatrist about it because it was causing me some severe problems. And I did. The doctor diagnosed me with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, from the mind control and from watching people seize out and attempt to take their own lives. And it explained a lot of the anxiety that I had been having. When I brought up the otherworldly stuff, they almost refused to talk about it, as if it was kind of worthless to discuss. So I just stopped talking about that and kept it to myself. They did ask me if there was drugs involved at this cult, and there may have been. They might have put something in my drink at times, but I don't know. Now, I've tried to move on, but things just never go as planned. I've been going day by day, but I wonder sometimes if I'm not going crazy and that another drink has been the answer all along. I just don't know. Oops. I tried to move on, but things just never go as planned. I've been going day by day, but I wonder sometimes if I'm not just crazy, and that another drink has been the answer all along. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think? It's like, clearly, like, the paranormal stuff is a bit weird, but I mean, for someone to kind of go through, if they did go through that experience, even if they were drugged and stuff, still pretty creepy, but I guess they could have maybe elaborated on some of the characteristics of the cult leaders, I suppose, to illustrate that they're kind of pushy or whatever. Have I gotten snow yet? No. It's still pretty warm here. I mean, it's been dropping down randomly to like, let's see, like to the 40s and stuff. We usually don't really start getting snow till like December or January, but then once it hits, it doesn't go away for like 6 months. 5 months, I guess. Yeah, it's like 60 right now, and it's going to be 60s the rest of the week, I guess. You want to experience snow, Fry?
Yeah, dude, come to America in like January to March, and
as long as you go somewhere that's sort of northern. You want to fight a talking snowman? That would be kind of fun. There's an army of snowmen, and you just have to like knock their heads off, and or like knock the carrot out of their nose. Does pumpkin spice lattes really have ammonia in it for the coloring? I have no idea. Let's ask. Does pumpkin spice latte have ammonia in it for the coloring? No, a pumpkin spice latte does not contain ammonia for coloring. The misconception likely arises from confusion about how some food colorings are made. In the food industry, ammonia is sometimes used in the production of caramel color, caramel Thor, a common food coloring. This process involves reacting sugars with ammonia and other compounds under high heat, but the final product does not contain ammonia itself. Instead, the compounds created give the desired color. In the case of pumpkin spice lattes, the color comes from various ingredients such as caramel coloring, pumpkin puree, and spices like cinnamon, nutmeg, and cloves, and there is no added ammonia. Still, though, adding caramel coloring sounds kind of gross. Like, who would want that? Why not just add fucking caramel to it? Joel, did you grow up watching The Year Without Santa Claus? No, I don't think I've ever heard of that movie, to be honest with you. Oh, shit. Holy crap. Elate, out of nowhere, with a huge 20 gifted memberships to Grendel S. Rage, Zaza Woman, Yerica Rodriguez, Trine, FVSL, Caitlin, Tasman, Leslie Jambin, Erica S., Aaron Wilson, Aaron, Ninny Wagon, Jessica Risner, Kelly Holden, BTM Reviews, Oak, Palms Mom, Keyboard Thug, Helgi123, Christian, oh wait, did that one? Butterflies Are Ninjas, and Kenneth Huyen. Elate, thank you so much. Seriously, that's massive. It's like $100. Thank you so much. Seriously, very, very kind, and welcome everybody. Be sure to thank Elate or thank anybody that gifted you tonight. You now have access to all the new bonus content. If you have a message, Elate, be sure to @ me. Okay, so no ammonia in the pumpkin spice. Good to know. I was 21. I had a job I loved, a beautiful girlfriend, and an awesome roommate, and we even hosted a men's group once a week. If only I knew how good things really... Shit. If only I knew how good things really were. My roommate and I were super into drugs. LSD, shrooms, you name it. We were incredibly close, and I consider him a brother, and for reference I'll just call him S from here on out. My other friend E would come to our friend group weekly, and he'd also join us about 3 times a week to work out. E was in his 50s and had a son a little younger than me. I met him while I was tripping one day, and he was an all-around super cool dude. Now technically, it's a church with locations in dozens of countries around the world, and I'll get into this more later, but all of this happened in the US, and what separates it from normal retreat... Did I miss something? I feel like we skipped... Maybe they're just like preemptively saying about what's... Can you be gifted too? I think it's just random. Cause like I click on your name. Oh yeah, I can't. Recently discovered your channel and I fucking love it. Already watched over 40 vids till now. Specifically the deep sea and wood. Oh shit. 1 second. Elate. Holy shit, with another 100 essentially because of the 20 gifted. 100 Buckaroony says, can't forget about the main man too. Thanks for the great content as always. Thank you, Elate. Thank you. Very, very kind. Jesus Louises. Elate, have you been... I feel like I don't remember your name in here. Maybe you lurk and you've just been lurking for a while, but seriously, very kind. Thank you so much. Now my butt is warmed up. Send a money gift if you could. No worries, honestly. You guys have been incredibly generous these past 2 nights. Maybe I should stream more often. Daily streams. The Let's Read treat. That would be good. Whenever I do my reading tours. What separates it from normal retreats is the control the church exhibits over its members, their intelligence network of spying, and the sinister nature of this church itself. Now, I'll do my best to go into it all, as there's a lot. So E starts dating this new girl. They're on and off for a while, and we're all rooting for him because he's such a great guy and deserves all the happiness in the world. Eventually, it comes out that E's new girl is a member of this ayahuasca church. S and I are super curious. We smoke DMT together, but have never done ayahuasca. I mentioned to E that I was interested and asked if he could get me out there. He was hesitant and said it wasn't really a fun thing. It's a religion. Now, I'm not a big fan of religion, but it seemed like they had some really good tea. A couple of months passed, and he ends up joining the church. S ended up joining before me as well. He was a keto teacher, and it turned out that he was part of the church too. And it turns out that a lot of people who were... Keto? A keto teacher? Maybe that was like lost in translation or something. What happened to uploading 3 times a week? That was too much. We switched it to 2 days a week. Nicole Lucas, welcome to the Buttersock Cult. You now have access to bonus content. Straight to my pickle funds, yeah. I got a big jar of pickles that I pull from. Oh, keto, yeah, like martial art. That would make sense, thank you. Might have just been the weird translation from 4chan. He was a keto cheat. He was a keto teacher, and it turned out that he was part of the church, too. And it turns out that a lot of people that we knew were a part of it, but they had never mentioned it. And I later found out it's an explicit rule not to talk about the church. Creepy, I thought, but I didn't think much beyond that. And I was actually stoked now since I had multiple avenues to join, both S and E. Now this is less of a trip report and more of a collection of experiences from my time in that cult. I had dozens of supernatural encounters, but we'll get to those when we get there. Now everything from astral projection, communication with spirits and otherworldly beings, telepathy, precognition, and so much more. There's just so much, and I just have to take it slowly. Now for now, anyway, I started to notice changes in S. He was acting more distant towards distance. Luxury bathroom or luxury closet? Probably the luxury bathroom, to be honest. Never really had a luxury... I don't even know what a luxury closet would look like. A Kegel teacher, yeah. Alright, hold your piss in, let it go. Hold your piss in, let it go. Oh, man, that would be nice to get a toilet with a bidet. Just a perfectly pristine, shiny asshole. Stream every night of October. Oh man, that'd be tough. For now, anyway, I started to notice changes in S. He was acting more distant towards me and was generally less playful. Before this, he would play, fight, spar with our different martial arts styles and banter, and just general mid-20s dude stuff. He stopped doing that entirely, and for some reason, I realized now that the church had already begun turning him against me. Not because they knew me yet, but because my personality did not mesh with their teachings. I asked him if he could get me my first cup of tea, and he declined. I was hurt and heartbroken. How dare he keep things from me? Joel, I have 120% recommend. Wait, what? The sweet bidet money. Oh, you have one. Oh, and recommended. Sorry, I was like, forgot about the bidet. Yeah. Because I thought there's like one you can connect to the back of your toilet or whatever. It'd be interesting. It's just like high powered and just power washes your butt. No one would ever know that you've ever pooped in your entire life. I asked him if he could get me my first cup of tea, and he declined. And I was kind of hurt and a little heartbroken, as how dare he keep this from me. And he explained that he would be responsible for me if he brought me to the church and didn't want to handle that quite yet. But I knew that he was lying. He just didn't want me there for some reason. Now, despite all of this, he eventually agreed to take me. I still think about how quickly he changed and how different he used to be. He's getting married soon to some girl that he met at the church. Kind of spooky stuff, man. And the friend I knew is gone, replaced by someone else. He's getting married soon to some girl that he met at the church. Pretty spooky stuff, man. And the friend that I knew was gone and feels like he's replaced by someone else. S continued to act weird, often coming home late from sessions, sometimes as late as 5 a.m. One week, he came home and asked me to move out. It wasn't completely out of nowhere, but it still hurt. And the week of my initiation finally arrived. I told my girlfriend all about it on a really nice date night. Now, she wasn't into drugs, but she could see that I was excited and was actually super supportive. Now, I ran there. Now, around the same time, my ex had been sending me nudes, and I hadn't asked for them, but I also didn't tell her to stop, and I kept it from my girlfriend. Now, we'll come back to this. The day of the initiation finally arrived. I woke up early to find my cat killing a bird, and she hadn't finished the job, so I had to kill that bird myself to put it at it. Oh my god. I feel like it's just like jumping from fucking concept to concept. Yellow Jackets episode 6 tonight. So I don't know if I'm going to finish the show since I got panicky during... Oh. Never heard of that show. A chef or a clothes designer? I think a chef would be pretty sick. That sounds awesome.
The day of my initial.
The water flosser is a bidet, yeah. If you have a really tiny, tight butt. The day of the okay. The day of the initiation finally arrived. I woke up early to find my cat killing a bird, and she hadn't finished the job, so I had to kill the bird myself. The first time I did this, it left me emotionally wrecked for a week. I was not thrilled to have to do it again, especially on the day that I was going to be drinking ayahuasca for the first time. The image of the mangled bird corpse was still etched in my brain, and I knew that it would come up later. And anyways, we had to drive 3 hours to get to the church, a very beautiful drive. I was super nervous when I arrived. It started with dinner, and I met some members of the church, and I even recognized some very familiar faces, like my server from the date with my girlfriend last night. Damn, this church had way more members than I thought. I enjoyed dinner, but couldn't eat much since I was really nervous. Now, when the time came, all the church members put on their uniforms. Everyone was in green shirts, and the guy leading the session wore blue. We all got our tea, but I didn't get much, maybe 2 fingers in a small glass. I was kind of upset that I didn't get more, but oh well. The session began, with church members speaking and singing in Portuguese, and at first I didn't feel anything. But then, I started to think about my girlfriend and felt really messed up that I hadn't told her about my crazy ex sending me those illicit pictures. Strangely, the bird situation didn't come up. There weren't a lot of visuals like I was used to with DMT, just a strong force of evil. Oh, man. I should put Subway Surfer on the screen so you guys can stare at that. E-Bull's World. Wow, the male seahorse carries the baby. There weren't a lot of visuals like I was used to with DMT, just a strong force of evil inhabiting my body. I vomited violently into the trash can in the kitchen, and the trip stopped entirely. You know, I kind of wanted more, so I asked for more and drank another cup. Now cue round 2. I had decided that I needed to discuss things with my girlfriend, but the tea had other plans for me. It totally laid me out, and I was put in the corner to lay down, just me and my water, which I kept drinking to stay hydrated. Then, visuals and a full out-of-body experience were triggered. I entered a time spiral where I could see all of my past and future selves. My girlfriend was in the time spiral, and in one instance, she was pregnant with my child. Honestly, the whole experience scared the hell out of me, but there was an optimistic feeling to it, like somehow I could overcome the evil force inhabiting me. Eventually, I came back to reality. At some point, I fell asleep, apparently according to others, and the session ended with the head of the church telling us we needed to be discreet about our experiences and not post about what happened online, kind of like what I'd been... Abby, what's up, dude? Oh, man. I keep messing up. Would you rather fart on command or talk below human frequency? I guess fart on command, because then I could control it, you know? I guess that's how it is anyways. But it would suck to have your belly feel like you gotta fart all the time. Are you gonna watch Terrifier 3 soon? I think so. I wonder if it will come to streaming. I feel like it's one of those movies that should have simultaneously come to streaming and theaters at the same time. The session ended with the head of the church telling us that we needed to be discreet about our experiences and not post about what happened online, kind of like what I'm doing here. And I learned later that this was part of a greater network of control, subversion, and secrecy. The church mostly operated in the shadows, and I'm still unsure of how much power they actually wielded. I went back home after my initiation, completely rocked to my core. I had to make a list of all the things I needed to do, which... I went back home after my initiation, rocked to my core. I had to make a list of all the things I needed to do, one of which was talking to my girlfriend. I explained the situation, my ex being severely mentally ill and thinking that this was the best way to get my attention, and my girlfriend wasn't having it and broke up with me on the spot. I went into work, and my hours were reduced to only 2 days a week, which wasn't even enough to pay rent. I was also looking for a new place to live. The guy I was supposed to move in with changed his mind after giving me the keys, and suddenly I was single, almost homeless, and hurting for income. Now, cults prey on people at their lowest, and in my first week of being introduced to the cult, I was suddenly at my lowest in years. So they really got their hooks into me, and I kept going to the church. The next session was much more chill, just a nice reflective experience, nothing much to write about. And I was still stressed about life, but everyone in the church was just so super supportive. I realized that they were like family here and felt like everything was going to be okay. And sure enough, I landed a new job within a week. S let me stay an extra month as I waited for a room in a different friend's house to open up, and my girlfriend came crying back to me, and we gave it another month, but it still didn't work out. At least I got some closure. The move-in date was approaching, and I didn't have that new job yet. I did a quick run across the state to make some money and made about $1,000 in a few weeks on the side, and things were looking up. I decided that the emotional support from the church had been super helpful. The tea wasn't so bad either. I was really enjoying getting to drink it every 2 weeks or so. Now it was at this point that I started to notice personality shifts within myself. Friends mentioned that I was quieter, less offensive, maybe even kinder. I started getting strange compliments on how nice my smile was or how put together I looked. Now looking back, it was kind of wild, but there was definitely some sort of aura shift that had occurred. People were more in touch with the spiritual realm. The spiritual realm. Oh, man. Would you rather scream below human tone or talk extremely high? I don't know. What's up, Chris? The Terrifier 3 reminds me of the classic 80s movies theater experience. Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe I should go. Just to do it. The guy who wouldn't stop asking me made mod, whatever happened to him. I don't know. Which one was that? Was it Jacob? Looking back, it was kind of a wild experience, but there was definitely some sort of aura shift that had occurred. People who were more in touch with the spiritual realm became more attracted to me all of a sudden. I began internalizing the dogma of the church, and it was helping me somehow. Now anyway, the day arrived when I decided to join the church. I told the main dude, the head priest, we'll just call him Jay, and Jay and I talked a lot. I really liked him, and he seemed to like me as well. We talked about former drug use, and he opened about his days as a crack addict. Whoa. It was totally crazy hearing the head of the church talk to me about his crack addiction. He told me to be careful about what I called into my life. Once, the only thing that he wanted in life was a more consistent crack dealer, and when he got it, it almost killed him. Duly noted. I had to wait 2 weeks until the next session to officially join the church. Usually I would carpool with the others to the church since it was long distance, but I decided that since that it was my special day, I would go alone. I loaded up my Mustang and took off. There were 2 main ways to get there. The long way, which used mostly paved roads, and the short way that cut off about 2 hours but went through mountain roads.
Oh, man.
There were 2 main ways to get there, the long way. Would you rather marry a woman who's 6 feet tall or 4'5"?
Now that's, I feel like, an actual question. Because, I mean, I don't think either of them are necessarily negative, per se. But I suppose 4'5" definitely attracts a lot more, like, maybe negative attention. Thinking you're weird or something? I don't know. 4'5" is so short, too. It's so funny. Seem tired? Yeah, I don't know why. I've been like, I slept so much today. I didn't eat today. That was one thing. Not in like a bad way, but I was like, well, I haven't eaten. Maybe I'll just keep not eating. How tall am I? I am 5'10" and a half. Answer silly questions or read? I guess a little of both. No cashews left. No, we're all out. I have to harvest it from the fruit. Short king. 5'10" short king. Kitchen Switch. Thank you for the 10, my friend. Appreciate you. Cheerleader, go! There were 2 main ways to get there. The long way, which used mostly paved roads, and the short way that cut off about 2 hours but went through mountain roads. I couldn't take the short path previously because it was winter and the mountain road wasn't maintained most of the year. It was summer now, so you already know which one I picked, and I grew up in the mountains, so these roads were no big deal. I was running a little late, so I was going pretty fast. In the church, they had all these weird, funny sayings, one of which was a dissection of the Portuguese word for patience, placencia, with pa being peace and ciencia meaning science. Essentially, patience is the science of peace, something to think about anyway. I was running late, so I was speeding, and there was this one hairpin turn at the top of the hill, and I hit it going way too fast. I lost control of my early 2000 sports car, and it just kind of ragdolled since there wasn't much I could do about it. As the car flew through the air, I noticed my bumper soar across my vision. Well, that's not supposed to happen. I finally came to a rest in the ditch with the car pointed in the opposite direction, but somehow it was totally fine. I got out and assessed the damage. 2 flat tires and the belt had come off the engine entirely. There was no cell service, and the road was empty for miles. The last house I saw was a long... Whoops. Little Princess Jitter Glitter Bug, welcome to the Butter Sock Cult, my friend. You now have access to bonus content. Watch Speak No Evil. I feel like, have I seen that? I don't know. Would you rather fight in the French Revolution or Russian Civil War? Probably the French Revolution, honestly. Russia's pretty... I mean, I guess all of war is scary, but... all of a sudden I get teleported back to Napoleon time frame.
One Piece, what's up, dude?
The last house I saw was a long time ago. And might I mention that this was the boonies, the kind of place where people are kind, but they'll reach for their gun when they see a stranger on their... Fuck, dude. Let me me squirt some of this in. Be part of the Roman legion or Spartan soldiers? I don't know. I've always been curious why they always act like the Spartans were such crazy soldiers. But I still think, like, in a battle, it really doesn't matter. Like, how... I mean, I guess if you were literally the best, but what makes them the best other than just, like, training? It's not like they can survive a stab to the neck, you know, from a arrow. 7-leaf clover, thank you for the 2. Boo! Thank you. What's up? What you been up to? Who are 300% eating? Little Princess Jitter Glitter Bug with a 5 says, "Hi, I can't believe I've been watching you since 2016. You get me through a lot." That is crazy. That's like 8 years. That's wild. Thank you so much. Would I rather marry a hot Asian woman or an Indian? It doesn't matter to me, honestly. I think everyone is hot. The last house I saw was a long, long time ago, and might I mention that this is the boonies, the kind of place where people are kind, but they'll reach for the gun when they see a stranger on their property this far out. I was more than a little nervous to be stranded out here next to a large field. Luckily, I had my camping gear, so it wasn't all that bad, but the mid-June heat sucked, and I chilled in the shade of my car. I was already late, but now I was probably not going to make it. A couple of cars passed, but no one was going far enough to get me there, and things seemed hopeless. But it wasn't within the teachings of the church to lose hope, and I strengthened my resolve against it. Man. Things seemed hopeless, but it wasn't within the teachings of the church to lose hope. I strengthened my resolve. Against all odds, I told myself that there was a car just around the corner that would take me there. I felt kind of silly, but I threw my willpower into this thought. I heard something. It was a car approaching, and they were going where I was going. They were totally freaked out seeing my smoking car and a rattled young man, but they agreed to take me to my destination anyway. 90% of the way there, I saw S driving in the opposite direction, and I honked at this car, hopped out, and thanked the kind people for taking me this far. I went over to S. "What the hell are you doing here?" "I don't know, man. I just could kind of tell that you were in trouble, so I was coming your direction to get you." I told him what happened. He had a premonition. Man, I can't find a rhythm. Chick-fil-A or Arby's? Dude, Arby's needs to, like, moisten up their sandwiches a little bit. Just, like, drench it in sauce or marinade or something. Because Arby's can be really dry sometimes. I told him what happened. He had a premonition earlier that day that I would crash and knew that it was true when I was late. We arrived just in time for me to drink the tea, and that story ended up becoming a classic after I told it in the session. I got my uniform and was officially part of the church. However, this was just the beginning of the strange paranormal stuff surrounding the church. I got my first weird story that night. One of the socios was this burly dude named Ryan. Ryan was a scientist who worked with the government. He went on a work trip across the country to a city that had one of these churches, and he decided to bring his uniform. At airport security, his bag got flagged, and they claimed that there was something strange in his bag. They searched it forever and obviously found nothing, but they were extremely confused. They asked him about the metal plate in his back. "What metal plate?" he asked, and they showed him the x-ray, and sure enough, there was a bright white rectangle in the middle of his back, right where his uniform was. His uniform glowed on the x-ray, and they had to let him go since they found nothing. This isn't for your enjoyment, it's for me to process it. There's... What? What? What the hell are they talking about? corrupt preacher or corrupt cop? Probably the corrupt preacher. Are you a true crime kind of guy, or maybe sci-fi anime? I mean, I love all that kind of stuff, but definitely more towards sci-fi and anime stuff as far as stories go. But I guess on the channel here I cover a lot of true crime. I'm just confused what, like, I don't even know what this is. The metal plate in their back. Now, this isn't just for your enjoyment, it's also for me to process it. There were some weird stories, and the sessions were called by a Portuguese name that directly translated to the Force. I never really learned to write in Portuguese, as I only learned it phonetically. Now anyway, these stories all happened while in the Force. One session, several months in, I drank the tea. At the start of the session, we had silence, or... played music for about an hour. And I left my body and I could see everyone in the room, but as spirits in a parallel realm. We were all flames in the darkness, and from each of us extended a thin, smoking line of light. These lines all came together like strands in a rope at the ceiling, and the temple was suspended in space. The light rope led to a pool of light. They would talk about how there was a lick of the Force, and I think this might have been it. It's hard to remember over the dogma, teachings, and stories since everything was oral and really nothing was written down. And I spent a year becoming a respected part of this church, finding work with other members who worked in graphic design and technology. One woman who employed me was named B, and she was married to my 8th grade history teacher who was also part of the church. And this happened before I was in the church. B had his neck and back issue that was quite serious, and she couldn't sit comfortably for very long. The doctors couldn't help her either. They just gave her pain meds. Others suggested surgery, but surgery didn't help. One session, B went into a trance. They would sing shamales or call God for certain things, and one of them was a healing call. Now, while B was in the trance, her neck and back issue was allegedly cured. And this story was spread by others in the church, but when I asked her about it, she insisted that it was just a coincidence. But still, I was intrigued. Could these shamales really heal people? What other kind of powers did people in this church have? I think the majority of the harm this cult did to me was in suppressing my own agency. There was a structure in this church, and it was just easy to take orders, to let other people decide things for me. I got really high a couple of times a month and let someone else sort of... What's up, Devoid? You changed your name. Do people recognize your voice on the daily? Nah. True creme brulee. How long does a video usually take? Do you let yourself take a whole day to finish it? I guess it just depends on the length. Yeah, usually each video length is like 8 to 10,000 words. This one's like 13,000, but normally recording a video can take like 4 hours, and then the editing process is probably equal amounts of time. I got really high a couple of months. I got really high a couple of times a month and let someone else sort out the spiritual stuff. And for the first time in my life, I had answers. The higher-ups in the church were counselors who were there to talk about your life problems. It was really great to discuss hard life issues with people who were calm, collected, and knowledgeable, except that they were all reporting to Jay. I didn't know it at the time, but the counselors in the instructive body were all part of a network to spy on all the socios in their day-to-day lives and make sure that they were living within the dogma. Now let me give you an example. There was a session that was much closer to where I lived. It was at my buddy E's house for a special occasion. I spent the month helping E prep the place, creating a stone staircase at the session site, and I spent about 30 hours on the project and never even asked for a... Oh.
Oh man.
What's up, Vince? Does your name still show first name? I didn't change it. It says first name devoid. But for some reason I thought it only ever said like first name and didn't have the devoid part. Do you have a default YouTube voice, or is your yapping on here actually your voice? I often wonder how many layers of voice exist with the telling YouTubes. I mean, this is my talking voice, and then, you've heard my narration. I spent about 30 hours on the project and never even asked for a cent. And the session finally happened, and it was a good one. We had about 50 people there, and it was so tranquil that we even attracted a herd of deer who chilled out with us for a while. It was an all-around nice vibe. After the session, we were chilling at E's house. Ryan was there. He's a tall, ripped dude with a gorgeous wife, about 10 years older than me, and he was a total role model. I wanted to tell him how much I appreciated him being a good role model for me as I tried to turn my life around, but I was still super high, so it didn't come out right. It kind of sounded like I was hitting on him. He called attention to it, but I clarified and we laughed it off, and I was embarrassed, but otherwise I thought nothing of it. Ryan is a cool guy. Now fast forward to the end of the session. Jay gives us all a lecture about how it's good to be friendly in the church, but something about the sanctity of... Crazy Dave with the big 20. Thank you, Dave. Says, I've been trying to find this one story I think you narrated. Story goes, kids go to an abandoned house and eventually make it a hangout spot. There was a room in there that they never went in until they did. Can't find it anywhere. Huh. I don't know, honestly. They used it as a hangout spot and they didn't... Huh. I almost feel like a Reddit story pops in my mind, but I can't quite connect to what video it would be. Do you ever give yourself nightmares? I don't think so. Only if I eat before bed. But thank you again, Dave. If anybody else knows it, maybe they can help them find it. Fast forward to the end of the session. Jay gives us all a lecture about how it's good to be friendly in the church, but something about the sanctity of marriage. Okay, whatever, kind of weird. Jay approached me after the session. Did you hear what I had to say tonight? He asked. Yes? You need to apologize to Ryan and his wife. For what? You hit on him, and that is not okay. No, that's not what happened. It doesn't matter. You need to talk to him and make this right. Bro, I'm not even gay. Whatever. So I talked to Ryan anyway. He literally burst out laughing when I told him. Oh, Jay just misunderstood. Don't worry about it. I know you weren't coming on to me. Okay, but... I said, I still have to talk to your wife. And so I did that too. She also laughed it off. Honestly, it seemed like she was just enjoying the situation more than anyone else. Ryan also told me not to worry about it. And that was the first time I realized that people were... And that was the first time that I realized that people were reporting almost everything to Jay, but I didn't yet know the extent of it. The religion itself, I guess, is Brazilian. Most of the socios are also in Brazil, and the teachers who hail from there are considered to be much more knowledgeable and are highly respected. Occasionally, we would get guest teachers from all over to direct sessions at our temple. A Brazilian teacher was there, and he filled my cup all the way, about 3 times as much as I normally had. They said, screw it, Brazilians know best, and so I downed it, and it hit hard, and it hit fast. I started to see through the cracks of the religion. I realized that I really wasn't supposed to be here, and my time in this cult was coming to an end, but I didn't know why. I had also been grappling with taking my own life recently, and it came on in full force. I couldn't be there anymore, and I decided to head for the nearby tent and told exactly one person where I was going just to get out. It was a blizzard outside. I could hear the snow falling off the roof, and the sound, while I was high, was distorted. It made this otherworldly zip sound as if it fell off the canvas roof. Honestly, it was pretty cool, but it caught me off guard at first since I was on high alert. I posted up next to the healer and waited, and sure enough, one of the counselors showed up. I told him about wanting to take my own life, way above high as a oh my god. I wonder how much more of this story we got left. We got a few more pages. I mean, this is not the worst thing ever. It definitely sounds like it's people's experiences and, you know, showing you, like, the fact that they use drugs and stuff in cults and churches and stuff sounds pretty spooky. Would you rather a smoothie or a shake? I don't know. Right now, a smoothie sounds pretty good. How many stories? We got 3 stories tonight. I told him about wanting to take my own life, way above high as a giraffe's head at this point, and somehow he guided me in the right direction and gave me the best pep talk about not taking my own life that I had ever gotten. I legitimately still think about it to this day, but of course he reported it to Jay. Now Jay knew that I was potentially unstable, running away from sessions. I didn't know it yet, but I was on thin ice and was now being watched very closely. Anyway, let me take a quick interlude to share some of the more... Anyway, let me take a quick interlude to share some more of the lighthearted paranormal stories I've had. It was a summertime outdoor session, and the sun was shining, birds were singing, and the force was strong. Often, the force came with some distortion. Like I mentioned before, there were cicadas, and at first I couldn't tell what it was. The otherworldly hum buzzed through my whole being and sounded completely alien, unlike anything I'd ever heard before. It felt like a UFO was about to come pick me up from this open field. Eventually, I realized that it was just the cicadas and the sound distortion. Hardly paranormal, but I still think about that sound. I've never heard anything like it since. Another outdoor session was this time that it was raining. We were in a different spot and clearly surrounded by... I have no silverware and I must eat. Oh, yeah, in a clearing. Yeah, my bad. We were in a different spot, in a clearing surrounded by trees. Luckily, I was under one of the pop-up shelters, huddled in my sleeping bag. I looked forward from my seat and saw a woman's face in the trees. Obviously, it was just an awesome coincidence of branches and leaves meshing together to make a face, but it felt like something more, and could tell it was a female spirit showing herself to me. At one point, I got up to check her out from different angles, but she was only visible from exactly where I had been sitting. The storm was going crazy, and I couldn't even hear what was being preached in the session, so I tuned into the spirit. She spoke in the language of the trees, and I learned about her life here, protecting this forest. She had been here for hundreds of years. The people in the church took good care of this land, and she was happy about that. It hadn't always been this good, but the details were a bit fuzzy. I don't exactly speak tree. The storm eventually calmed, and a Texan teacher got up to talk. He was a really cool dude, with a drawl and everything, and he told us that this land used to be owned by loggers, but the clearing was spared because all the trees were considered poor material due to their Y shape. And sure enough, all the trees in the clearing were split halfway through, growing in a Y shape. They didn't say it, but I knew that it was the spirit protecting this clearing from us. All the branches that formed here Oh, man. This is a long fucking ramble of a story. I'm kind of waiting for something to happen. All the branches that formed her face came from those Y trees. And then, as I looked, she winked at me. She actually winked. After the session, I tried to tell S about it, and he was right next to me, but when I started, he said he had to go, and it never came up again. Now, one more lighthearted story, and then I'll get back to the heavy stuff. The day of the session, I usually leave town at around the afternoon, just relaxing and playing video games until then. But this morning, I couldn't find my cat. Not a big deal since she roams outside, but I wouldn't be seeing her for a day or so when I went to the session. I called for her for a bit before I left, but no luck. Oh well, I figured I'd see her when I got home. Now during the session, I drank my tea and closed my eyes, and suddenly I was no longer in the temple. I was back home in my gaming chair. My cat hopped in my lap. Mittens, my goodness, there you are. Don't you know I was looking for you all morning? And I rubbed her, generally stoked that I had got to hang out with my cat, and then I snapped back to the temple, guided back by a Shimada. Okay, Jesus fucking Christ. The Shimada brothers. Ugh. Shimada. How many people snack during the chat? There you go. Do you snack during chat? You just got back from snacking. We can vote yes. Then I snapped back to the temple, guided back by a Shimada, and this was really cool because when I got home, my cat was in the same spot and didn't act like I had been gone all weekend. It seemed obvious to me that she had received the attention that I gave her during my vision. Now back to the darkness, I decided to check out a different temple in another state. It was huge, literally 5 times the size of my home temple. I was kind of intimidated and really nervous since I didn't know anyone, but I was usually good at making friends. Fuck. I was kind of intimidated and really nervous since I didn't know anyone, but I was usually good at making friends. During the session, I got bored and felt like it was too much, so I asked for a little less tea. The teacher put the extra in his own glass. And oh boy, I still ended up having an extremely uncomfortable session and spent most of it in the bathroom with digestive issues, basically trying not to lose control. At one point, I returned to my seat and a Brazilian woman walked behind me. Suddenly, I heard a smack, and she fainted. The sound was her head hitting the floor. Holy crap, I couldn't be there, and I started having a panic attack, crouched over in my seat, rocking back and forth for the rest of the session. The evil in the air was palpable. She ended up being okay, but the whole situation just left me rattled. I'm not sure where to go from here, so I'll just skip to the end. Most of the people in the church were older, maybe 50 to 70 years old, and the next largest age group was 30 to 50. There weren't a lot of guys like me in their 20s, and a few of the families had kids, and all of the kids could drink the tea, and they ranged from literal babies to teenagers. I made friends with the older teenagers because there really wasn't anyone else to relate to. I was only like 3 years older than them anyways, so I didn't see a problem with it, but boy was I wrong. I had been watched, of course, and I realized this a little. I had been watched, of course, and I realized this a little after the Ryan incident. I approached the mother of one of the teenage girls who had been getting uncomfortably close to me, and I didn't want any trouble, so I pulled her mom aside and laid out my concerns, and she laughed and told me not to worry, and then said that her daughters were of, quote, prime breeding age. Okay. I decided to keep my distance even more because what the heck was that? I still stayed friends with the other teenagers and a couple of other kids, and some of the young adults, 18 and 19 years old, were friends with me outside of church. They even asked me about pot since I was the cool older guy. I told them that it was okay to get high, but not to become the 420 lol weed guy. Balance, you know? And the teenagers were pretty cool, but it was kind of a weird thing to be drinking ayahuasca with them, and I just had to get over it. I kid you not, I drank ayahuasca with babies on multiple occasions, and pregnant women as well. Nothing seemed to be off limits for these people. We were having church campouts, and I was taking on more responsibilities in this church, and so was S. We were learning Portuguese and chamadas, asking questions in sessions that they wouldn't answer because we weren't part of the instructed body yet. S and I were hyping each other up to be elevated into this secret society, and he even went on a trip to Brazil to make the tea and bring it back. We were both working hard. During the campout, I was making a video, getting lots of footage and doing interviews, that kind of thing. And at one point I was passing through the temple and bumped into one of the teenage girls. I gave her a quick side hug, but other than that, I thought nothing of it, and you gotta keep things platonic, I thought. Now fast forward to a year later, and Ryan grabs me from the fire and takes me to Jay, shrouded in darkness. Oh no. Someone reported me for speaking to the girl inappropriately and touching her. Bro, I said hi and gave her a side hug, I protested. That's not what the informant says, Jay responded. I demanded the girl be questioned, knowing that she would defend me, being my friend and all, but Jay said that there was no need for that. The next day during the session, I was still angry about these false accusations, and I tried to let it go and have a good session, but it turned out to be an intense one. I saw a Brazilian man, the founder of the religion, and he was holding his hand out to me, asking me for something. Again, I could see all the souls around me. I saw their bodies shrouded in darkness, and he was holding his hand out to them too. They all breathed out some of what life essence that I had seen in previous visions, and he collected it. He gestured to me, and I had not given him my breath. I held my breath, and he became insistent. I refused. Suddenly I was ripped from the vision and ran to the bathroom to vomit, literally vomited every drop of tea. It was weird, but I was still high as hell, so I just went back to sitting down. And I arrived just in time. The DMT church, yeah. I don't even know if I should start with... I don't even know what story to start with between those two. As they were... Like, they're not bad, but... I don't know. Just odd. I feel like nothing, like, really too terrible happened as far as spooky shit goes. I arrived just in time for a big announcement. S had been elevated to the secret society along with a few of my other friends, the people I was closest with in the church. But not me. My name was not called out. Okay, I guess I'll just keep going. And I continued my duties for the weekend, but left a little early, still disgusted by the false accusations, and it didn't come up again, but it left me feeling uneasy. Now fast forward 2 weeks, it's my birthday, yay, happy birthday, and calls start rolling in. Up first is Jay. You are removed from the church. What? Excuse me? We are confident that you are a predator and a danger to the children in the church. What the hell? And he hangs up on me. I was unable to comprehend what had just happened. S called me next, and I told him what had happened. My voice was dead. I felt completely betrayed. The church had been my life for these years, and I had even been employed by people in the church. And slowly, all the calls came in. The only person I told about this was Eric, and a couple of the counselors called to wish me a happy birthday. That was so messed up. A few calls in, and I was demanding some sort of justice, but they would just hang up on me after wishing me happy birthday. And by the end of the day, I was a complete mess. My mother took me out to dinner, and I told her what had happened, and it totally ruined the evening. It's okay, though. I just felt dead inside anyway. Now, a few days passed, and no one in the church stood up for me, not even S, and I finally got... Oh, man. And I finally got a call from E, and he got an official warning from the church for disputing my removal. And that was phase 1. I was literally too evil to defend. And before you ask, no, I never did anything to warrant this accusation. No evidence was ever provided at any point, but none was ever needed. Now anyway, that's about the end of it. It's been difficult to return to normal after a year of drinking that stuff every weekend. None of the people in the church talk to me. A few have reached out, or vice versa, but the conversations have been brief and topical. Occasionally I lost my job with one of the other socios as well, and he and I are still on good terms and we talk often. S sided with the church entirely, and he believes them. And at some point I thought that the people who had grown to know and love me would stand up for me, and maybe some would even leave in solidarity with me, but no one did. I'm not sure what they told everyone in the end. I'm forging ahead to... Ribeye steak, just salt. Nice, dude. That sounds good. Oh, man. Diet water. Delicious. Story's so convoluted. I know. I'm kind of nervous about putting this out tomorrow, to be honest with you, because... I mean, I don't know. The previous story wasn't that scary either. It was just like doing... I don't know, because the cult itself never really did anything to him or did anything bad. It was just like about being in one, you know? I'm forging ahead as much as I can, finding a balance between who I was in the church and who I was before. Who I am now is a mix of those people with a burning hatred of cults and religion. Probably the worst part was having my social circle ripped away from me so suddenly and completely. It might sound weak tapping an ad, but... Wait, what? It might sound weak tapping an ad, but such a visceral dose. Yeah, be sure everyone drinks their ayahuasca tea before we keep going. It might sound weak, but such a visceral devastation. It might sound weak, but such a visceral devastation left me unable to function for many months afterwards. I spent a lot of time unemployed or hopping from job to job, and eventually I got control of it all. I have a solid job now and I'm back in school, but it was iffy for a moment. And that's my story. Maybe a bit anticlimactic at the end, but that's how life goes. And now, hang around if you guys have any more... And now I'll hang around if you guys have any more questions about the church, the tea, or my story. I have a few more one-offs of me and weird paranormal stuff like that with the church, but maybe it was just the ayahuasca talking. More boring stories. Oh, man. I hate that, though. Because, like, last time, someone left a comment on, like, one of the more recent Halloween videos saying that my stories are getting more and more boring. And I don't want them to get boring, bro. That would suck. Let me read this comment. Wait, second story there. Oh, well. I think, well, maybe not. Anyways. Yeah, boring stories to sleep to. Oh, they're not boring? Well, that's good. I mean, it is interesting, like, being part of a cult, I guess. But it's definitely kind of... There wasn't like a ton of crazy stuff. Scary gaming stream on Halloween? Maybe. That's when a video comes out though, on a Thursday. Can't really stream during a video day or it'll detract people from listening. Well, I'm gonna be right back. We're gonna do one more story after this. It's not like super crazy long, but Yeah, I will be right back. Goodbye, horses. They're drowning over you. Goodbye, horses. Drowning, drowning, drowning over you. Alright. Thanks for being here, guys. This is the last story, but let me just check something right quick. Zoom. Jesus Christ. Trying to get something to scroll up. It's so slow. Alright, copy. Word count. I guess maybe I could ask ChatGPT. How many words is this? 13,424 words. Well, we really banged through it if it's that many, because normally it's like most of my story sets are only like 8,000. Interesting. Hello, horses. Listen to the one story from you, the one with the weird Mickey Mouse mascot in Florida. That was a good one. I don't remember. Was that Disney? Disney stories? All right, let's go. Let's keep it rolling. This happened this past August. It's the second weirdest thing I've ever seen in this state and is easily the most unsettling. After doing 24/7 grandpa care for 2 months, I finally got 3 days off. I get 2 friends to join me for a trip into the mountains, and we leave Friday night in a truck pulling a trailer with 2 four-wheelers. Light finally fades at around 10 p.m. as this is mid-August in Alaska. We take it easy on speed because of the heavy diesel truck, and we get to the target highway at around midnight, and the pavement ends at about mile 21. Everything up to now has been pretty normal. A couple of miles in, the road turns left with a small pull-off on the right side. There's a little Subaru parked there, facing into the road with an LED light bar at the face level. Something is leaning on the hood. Someone. There's a little Subaru parked there, facing into the road with an LED light bar at face level, and someone is leaning on the hood, watching us as we drive by. We're tired at this point and not really concerned, figuring it's just someone waiting for their hunting buddy. It is caribou season after all, and we keep going. This highway gets really rough in the fall. This highway gets really rough in the fall. It's gravel and the heavy fall rain. Hey, what's up, Jade? Need a new poll. Who wants for you to stop narrating to post in the live chat? Wait, what do you mean? Could you read Sundog, a story by Stephen King? What's that one about? We're tired at this point and not really concerned, figuring it's just someone waiting for their hunting buddy. Man, I keep fucking saying things weird. We're tired at this point and not really concerned, figuring it's just someone waiting for their hunting buddy. It is caribou season after all. We keep going. This highway gets really rough in the fall. It's gravel and the heavy fall rains combined with all the hunting and camping traffic tear it up. I'm lucky if I can manage 30 miles per hour. The truck, trailer, and my teeth are all rattling from the washboard road. It's a nice bright full moon and I can spot the worst of the potholes. We hit a long, straight stretch before our trailhead pull-off about a half mile down, and halfway there, I see lights in the rearview mirror, bright as hell. It's that LED light bar again, and this time they're hauling ass, going 50 to 60 miles per hour, maybe more. One friend is zonked out in the back and the other is spaced out in the passenger seat, and I point out the light bar car to him and he watches them in the side mirror. He doesn't seem too unsettled though. The car is maybe 20 feet back by the time I finally pull into the trailhead, and it catches up about 10 seconds later, slowing down to around 5 miles per hour as it goes by, obviously checking us out, and my hackles are up now. We park the truck and watch as they drive down the highway for a bit. I let out a deep breath and look to the left, and there's an SUV parked at the corner. New shoes, $140, huh? That is very expensive for a pair of shoes. Oh, running shoes. Yeah, I guess that's how much they cost, don't they? A little bit of Kuho mixed in there. What are you mixing in? Cherry bomb and grape blow pop. Now sour blue dust. Would you rather fight a group of women with knives or a gang of men with crowbars? Oh, man. Probably the group of women, I guess. I mean, the crowbar is not any better than a knife, you know. But, man, I'm probably getting stabbed. I let out a deep breath and look to the left, and there's an SUV parked at the other corner of this parking area. And this is where things start getting weird. I wake up the friend in the back, kill the engine, and hop out. Instantly, I get a gut feeling that something's off. We're being hunted and it's time to go. And my response to this bizarre sensation, hey, there's something written on that SUV, and I shine my flashlight on it. Moloch is written in the dust on the back window. Oh shit. My friends are stretching their legs. One has his rifle out, and they're both Oh God, Pradeep's shitting in his box. Owned by Cats, thank you for the one gifter to 7-Leaf Clover. Welcome, 7-Leaf. Thank you, Cats.
Does Joel vape? Joel? Do I vape Joel? I vape myself.
No, I don't vape. I'd like to vape. Seems like a fun little thing to just like suck on a stick and make a big cloud. Start a storm in the sky in your own house. Yeah, Pradeep's just in there scratching around for a big old shit. It's crazy how much time he like spends in there shitting. Like he's got to find the perfect place. Like just shit in the box. It's gonna go away anyways. Okay, he's done. He's done. It's like a big Zen garden. Give him a little rake. That would be fun. Can you back up from the mic really far and talk? Sure. Can you hear me? Can you hear me over there? I can't even read the chat. I'm so far away. I'm in Tim Fuck 2. I also should shit in Pradeep's litter box. Just to even the score, you know? Further. I don't know how much further I can go. Does he care if 550 people are listening to him? I don't know. I feel bad for 550 people listening because I feel like I'm not providing much entertainment tonight. My friends are stretching their legs. One has his rifle out, and they're both unusually quiet. We check out the SUV. The engine is still warm, probably parked within the last few hours, I'd say. Only the front passenger door is locked. There are shoes, sandals, and shorts, comfy driving wear on the front seats, and in the back there's a full pack, a compound bow, a full Kohler, Jesus Christ. In the back, there's a full pack, a compound bow, a full cooler, a tent, and everything seems untouched. There's also a 6-month expired youth group sticker on the hood and an empty coffee cup, but the coffee still looks fresh. And it looks like a young couple out to camp. We're all independently reaching 10 out of 10 on the alert scale at this point, and we look around the whole area. No one's there, no fresh tracks except for in the parking area itself, and another pair of cars with LED light bars go by, hauling it at maximum speed. We keep our rifles on them for covers. We keep our rifles on them from cover. Oh, I see. Like trained on them. Boop, welcome back for 9 months. I found that cats can't do their business in one go. One separate... Oh, from twos explains the constant digging. Oh, okay. I guess that makes sense because sometimes he'll do his thing and then he'll go back in there. That's funny. The more you know. If you're at either $100 or swallow 100 pennies. Oh man, I guess probably the paper. We keep our rifles trained on them from cover as they pass, just following our gut feelings. We leave and camp 30 miles away on a different highway, and we come back in the morning. The SUV is still there, untouched, and there's still no sign of anyone around, and the terrible gut feeling is gone. We take the four-wheelers and go 8 miles back into the mountains, and have a good time camping, and even get bullied by a caribou. And we come back the next day, and nobody is out there. There are great lines of sight and nowhere to hide, but the SUV is still untouched, and the food in the back is starting to go off. And the food in the back is starting to get bad. We get back to town and call the SUV into the troopers, and the dispatcher says, "Yeah, that's sketchy as hell. I'll send someone out." And I call back 2 weeks later to see what came of it, and no record of ever having called it in. Hey, Co, welcome to the Buttersock Cult. You now have access to bonus content. Thank you, Co. Laughing and having fun online in my bed. Anyone got a promo code for Let's Read merch store? I wish they did that. That'd be nice.
I wish I could gift out merch. That'd be sick.
I call back 2 weeks later to see what came of it, and there's no record of ever having called it in, though they have every other call I've made. And I'm sorry, some stories just don't have a good ending. I'm convinced that we were being watched, stalked even, and the only reason they let us be was because we had our rifles propped up on the seats, very visible. I never found any explanation for what I saw out there. All I know is that gut feeling I got when I stepped out of that truck was the spookiest thing I've ever experienced, and all three of us felt it independently. But I do wonder, with the writing of Moloch on the side of that car, could it have been cult activity? See, this story's so far has been like the spookiest one, and it's not even really that scary. So I like... Damn, dude. This is kind of rough. Well, you know what? We got one more story to go. Like, well, you know, there is like another story. This one could be interesting, honestly. Maybe save the whole video. Fuck it, dude. We're only this far in. We might as well keep going. Try to save the video. I mentioned this over in the video game Urban Legends thread, and I think it's came time to make an entire thread on this. Carnival was an arcade light gun shooter that came out on October 31st of 1998 and was both published and developed by Midway Games. It was a bestseller and even outsold Mortal Kombat 4 that year, yet despite its popularity, it never had a sequel, nor had it been released on a home console or PC. The game is noted for its extreme graphic violence and surrealistic dark comedy, but there's a much darker secret, and I've been trying to figure it out. If you're expecting some low-effort creepypasta, then look elsewhere. This is real, and I know what I'm talking about. Carnival was a game developed mainly by a right-wing Celtic pagan folk cult and was meant to be a part of a series in a complex set of rituals for Samhain. What? Samhain. Why does Samhain sound so familiar? What? Samhain. 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 Oh, it's pronounced... Dude, why is Irish, like, Gaelic pronunciations, like, so fucking strange? Like, it's Samhain, and it's pronounced Samhain, or Samhain. Samhain. That's interesting. This is real, and I know what I'm talking about. Carnival was a game developed mainly by a right-wing Celtic pagan folk cult and was meant to be a part of a series and a complex set of rituals for Samhain, the Celtic New Year, which has often been misidentified as Halloween by clueless redneck Protestants. The game itself was the concept of Jackie Hagar, a Midway employee at the time who had no real connections to the cult and simply wanted to make a spooky Halloween horror game. For my former brethren work... For my former brethren, fuck. Do I listen to MGK? No. For my former brethren working for Midway at the time, he was what is known as a useful pawn. This game's Radar article, published for its 20th anniversary... Come on, man. Why am I see the words. For my former brethren work... Former brethren. Why is that so fucking hard to say? For my former brethren working for Midway at the time, he is what is known as a useful pawn. And this game's... Motherfuck, dude. I don't know if, like, my brain just, like, runs out of words that it can say after a certain amount. But I feel like it all just, like, is blending together. And I'm not even, like, tired. I just feel like... as you read, you get worse at it, and it's so strange. For my former brethren working for Midway at the time, he was what is known as a useful pawn. This game's Radar article, published for its 20th anniversary in 2018, is mostly just fluff, but there are useful tidbits of information in it. Namely, it confirms the existence of the lost console port and its bizarre development, which Hagar was largely kept out of, and that Midway higher-ups were giving them some trouble. The real mystery is the tunnel, a level that was completely cut out, with the only remnant being the song from the area found in the game's code by emulators looking into the cut content. The music sounds like smooth jazz elevator music you'd hear in softcore cable. The music sounds like the... Oh my god, what the fuck? Why is it so... I don't even know where my brain is. The music sounds like the smooth jazz elevator music that you'd hear in softcore adult films on late-night Skinamax back in the day, It was obviously meant to be a tunnel of love to fit in with the game's Carnival fairground theme, and because it was meant as sort of a adult ritual, blending intimacy and violence, which was part of an ancient Celtic pagan rites. Midway's higher-ups made sure the tunnel was cut because it was deemed too offensive, and they didn't want arcade owners to ban the game. If you played Carnival, you'd know that the Tunnel of Love would be really messed up if it was deemed too offensive for one of the most twisted arcade game. Oh my god. 7-leaf clover, thank you for the 2. This is maybe coffee will help. Yeah, that would be nice, honestly. I can't drink any right now, though. I don't know, my, fucking voice just keeps slurring. Blah, 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 blah. I'm not drunk, no. Yes, he's drunk. Peter is a master of misinformation. Who was my first crush? His name was Jocko, and he was the janitor at my school. If you played Carnival, you'd know that the Tunnel of Love would be really messed up if it was deemed too offensive for one of the most twisted arcade games ever made. There's a bunch of other weird stuff in the game's code, including placeholder images of Sailor Jupiter and a shocking image of Jeffrey Dahmer holding the severed head of a Midway executive that had given the devs issues, meant as a joke. The cultist devs were also weebs, the old-school 90s kind who were known as otaku and enjoyed violent, edgy content and gory hentai. Interestingly, the game's credits even mentioned Princess Serenity under Special Thanks. The cult that I was a part of had members in multiple states and even a small group in Ontario. The leader of the Canadian branch was a stereotypical otaku obsessed with Sailor Mercury and was featured in a Dateline report, but much of his overt neat and otaku behavior was an act to fool people into thinking that he was an incompetent basement dweller instead of the Canadian equivalent of Lord Summersisle. Greg wasn't the leader when that interview took place in the 90s, and I'm not sure if he had any connections to Carnival, specifically the Lost Console version. That version was an entirely different type of game rather than a mere arcade port. The tunnel was alleged to have contained shocking footage and coded messages that cult members, Jesus Christ. Gory hentai, moo. I'm Canadian, new. It's you, Pergy. You are the leader of the Celtic cult. Sailor Jupiter. Would you rather have 10 stalkers or 10 AI stalkers? I don't know. I'd be curious what AI would do to you if it just keep making new accounts and being very annoying. Just flooding your stuff. Are you looking for a researcher? What kind of researcher? For true crime stuff? Yeah, are the stalkers hot? Good question. The tunnel was alleged to have contained shocking footage and coded messages that cult members would understand, but that would be meaningless to others. Some of the footage and imagery included an array of Celtic paganism symbols, gory anime artwork, and clips from various titles, complete with directors and release dates. Other footage I was informed about included the Bud Dwyer tape in GIF format and some taped rituals, possibly involving nude people and animals or even human sacrifice. The tunnel and console port was both supposed to contain various clips from these sources, but they were cut for being illegal and difficult to use. Bud Dwyer's death is legally available and not under copyright, so what's left is either the ritual being illegal or the footage involving movie and anime clips being unlicensed. There is more proof of the cut images that did survive in the game, like the Sailor Jupiter placeholder pic, which is entirely different from the other placeholders, and the Dahmer image. Joe Pilato was offered a voice role for the console version but refused because he was disgusted by the script. Pilato played Rhodes in Day of the Dead and did some anime and cartoon voice work in the 90s, most notably in Digimon. My cat is so silly. Gaia, yeah. If you feel that you could match the true crime that's on the channel for like research style content, like please do email in with like some of your work or examples of your work and stuff, and definitely be open to talking about that. I usually have to search long and hard to fill up my work time. Glad you're live streaming more. Yeah, heck yeah. We out here. Your 30-year-old piano teacher like Digimon. That's true. A lot of millennials kind of like maintained a lot of their childhood cartoon interests, which is kind of funny because like I don't know. Talked to my parents and they had like cartoons that they would watch, but for some reason it just something like Pokemon or various other animes just seem to like sit very warmly in people's hearts that are in their 30s and 20s, I guess, as well. And it makes sense because they are good shows, and maybe that just means that like shows back in the day weren't that interesting. The very old cartoons are really lame. That's true. They definitely don't have a lot of like story to them. They're kind of just like meant for kids and one-off. Yeah, I really don't blame like kids being really into anime nowadays for the past, like getting very much into it in the past 10 plus years, because I don't know, like America doesn't really have any good cartoons, do we? Like all of our, it's like, it's kind of embarrassing. All of our animated shit is just complete poop. Kitty, what are you doing? Just jumped on my chair. Now he wants to bump his head into my butt. He's a stinky poop head. Dude, animals are pretty freaking sweet. Sometimes they look at you and you just know they're talking probably like in Chinese or something. Pilato played Rhodes in Day of the Dead and did some anime and cartoon voice work in the 90s, most notably in Digimon. And where did you get this information regarding the clips? Well, a close friend of mine worked at Midway on the dev team back then. We were roommates in Iowa at the time, and he had 2 places of residence, an apartment near Chicago that he rented in his name and the ranch in Iowa that the group owned, where I lived. Midway Games had their main headquarters in Chicago and several smaller offices in Illinois and Iowa for their arcade division. I know it sounds like one of those "my dad works at Nintendo" excuses, but it's true. I've met many strange and varied people in the old pagan community. As you drift further away from Wicca and New Age garbage, a lot of people overlap or stay in touch more closely. Like I said, I was part of a Celtic pagan cult fart. Like I said, I was part of a Celtic pagan folk cult mainly devoted to worship of Lugh. Oh my god. I don't know any of these fucking names. Loch. 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 I don't know. Loa. Man. How you say lube. Lugia. It's just Lou. Loo. But it's written Lugh. Okay. Lou. And then Ethne. Enye? Jesus Christ. None of the writing like lines up with the pronunciation of how you would expect. And like, I know it's not English, but it's just crazy that they use the same alphabet and don't pronounce anything similar. Enya. Yeah. What the fuck? Enya. They worship Enya. The Dagda. Of course, this is going to be something like Duhyan. Dagda. Okay. Also, it's funny, I have like a self-cleaning like shit box for Pradeep. And whenever it cleans itself, he like runs in there to go investigate. Like, where's my poop being taken? Don't you take that from me. Sorry, I'm just looking up how to say these gods that he worships.
Mischievous dog.
Morayan. Mike Baiano, welcome back for 25 months. Says, listened to your DoorDashing last night and pulled up to a guy on his porch. He walked up my car and said, let's read Buttersock Cult? Really? Dude, that's awesome. That's actually so fucking cool. Wow. Buttersock Cult, wow. It's caught on. It's here to stay. The poop archive, that's where the shit gets taken, yeah. Every one of my cat's shits are stored in like a huge underground base below my house. There's just miles and miles of servers. Look like servers. They have to be cooled in non-electric conducting liquid so as not to overheat. The cats get confused when they take their poop. I would too. I'd be pissed. I'd be like, where the fuck are you taking that? I made that myself. That's my baby. And you're just gonna go take it and eat it, probably? Okay, how do we say these names? Luch, Enye, Dagda, and more. Man. Morayan. Like I said, I was part of a Celtic pagan folk cult mainly devoted to worship of Lu, Enya, Dagda, and Morayan. Many creepy and disturbing rituals are associated with the Morayan, and she is nothing like the Wiccan goth girls of the New Agers portraying her as. If you read Celtic myth, you'd know that. And so the cult is a bunch of weeb D&D nerds that fetishize Celtic pagan ethno-nationalism? Yeah, that sounds typical for 90s game devs. I can't count the number of weird dudes on Doom forums exactly like this. The weaves and D&D nerds were simply two of the demographics the cult recruited from. They also recruited in goth and metal circles as well, preying on outcasts and people from broken homes and dysfunctional families. The longer you were in the cult, the more that kind of behavior was discouraged. If you wanted to advance in rank, you had to get deeper into the cult, pagan, and the right-wing stuff. I left the cult in 2002, a few months after 9/11, and things were getting serious and I bugged out of there. And I no longer live in Iowa and I don't keep in touch with anyone from the cult. The game devs working on the console version of Carnival were a third-party group contracted by Midway, as opposed to the actual employee devs who did the arcade version. Only two of these guys were cultists, my old roommate and another person. They were in the lower ranks, and I actually met Greg, the Canadian weeb who loved Sailor Mercury, around 1999 or 2000, when the Ontario branch met up. Damn it. Why are all these like such fucking long sentences? I need to have the world's biggest breath. They were in the lower ranks, and I actually met Greg, the Canadian weeb who loved Sailor Mercury, around 1999 or 2000, when the Ontario branch met up with the other Midwestern sets of the cult. He had lost weight and had become less interested in anime, more fixated on worship and rituals to gain rank. I'm not sure if the cult is still active or if they have rebranded, and after Columbine and 9/11, the cult intentionally kept an even lower profile, and there were fears of law enforcement getting involved as many members stockpiled weapons and some sold drugs. A lot of cultists participated in various criminal activities, and some of the advanced rituals would be considered felonies, and as a result, many people started panicking and jumping ship in the early 2000s. Some of the oldest members originally belonged to white gangs in the wider Chicago area like the Jousters, Gaylords, Stone Freaks, and Uptown Rebels. What would they do in these rituals? Do they worship Celtic gods? Yes, they worship Celtic gods and goddesses. Rituals often involved intimate acts, both gay and straight, lighting candles, bloodletting, self-harm, and plant sacrifices. Plant sacrifices? Is that part of cults, sacrificing plants?
Oh, sacrificing plants as using rituals is not common in some spiritual, though it's less typical. The more well-known animal is symbolic offerings. Oh, okay. Maybe I should say plant offerings.
Well, planned offerings? Or planned sacrifices? I'm not sure. I mean, I guess it would make sense if they're doing like offerings with like just weirdo stuff, I guess. Is this story starting to feel like more interesting than the previous ones? As in, like, should I maybe start with this one? I guess nothing specifically has happened, and maybe they'll get into like the details here sooner or later, but I don't know. It's been a weird episode, but it is what it is, I guess. You cringe on. Yes, they worship Celtic gods and goddesses. Rituals often involved intimate acts, both gay and straight, lighting candles, bloodletting, self-harm, and plant offerings. More advanced rituals for certain holidays or special events include sacrificing live animals, mainly farm animals like chickens, pigs, and sheep, and at one point a calf. There were rumors that other sets in Michigan and Kentucky performed human sacrifices of kidnapped people, such as potential informants or rival gang and cult members, but I honestly doubt those claims. Animal sacrifices were real, and I saw them firsthand, and I even took part in some of the self-harm and candle-lighting rituals. Initiation rituals were similar to gang initiations and included beatings followed by the group partaking. Initiation rituals were similar to gang initiations, included beatings followed by group intimacy and lust, often of a sadomasochistic. Multiple partner session. He took me to McDonald's and paid for my fries. What are you guys talking about in chat? What's up, Stitch? How goes it? Live in a luxury mansion or apartments? Probably mansion, honestly. That'd be sick. How am I still awake? Because I sleep. Because I exist solely for the stream. I sit in a frozen cryo chamber. Please, man, let me know the salt bong arrow was not in my head. There has to be some here from the past time. Salt bong. Oh my god, man, that's going back. Did I remember that? Yeah, it was like inhaling salt. Not like salt, but it was like supposedly supposed to like make... It was an aphrodisiac, really. It was one of our rituals. Everyone takes an inhalation from the salt bong. Oh shit, man, that's been a long time. I remember that was like at my old place, and I remember like I used it like once, and I was like, this is retarded. So I just like it like sat on like some like high up the elevation in my like house for a long time, just sitting there. What's up, Audrey? How we doing? The heating bills.
I was so hoping to hear about the people in cults and escaped and the missing families and friends and cult member who had to marry the leader at 30 wives, but I guess not. Yeah, fuck, dude. This is gonna be such a... Well, whatever. Keep going. Initiation rituals were similar to gang initiations and included beatings followed by group intimacy, often of a sadomasochistic nature. I still have nightmares from my initiation. Having a bunch of people beat the crap out of you, then literally assault you back to back is not fun, to say the least. But at the time, I wanted to prove myself worthy of this cult, and I welcomed it. I signed off on those acts more or less, but I deeply regret it now. I had a car, and I was a quartermaster and steward, and my job was to acquire weapons, food, fuel, ammunition, and other basic supplies for our stockpile in Iowa. There were other aspects to the cult as well, like why we tried to infiltrate the video game industry and recruited from certain nerd fandoms and IT workers. You know how back in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, you had Christian conservatives going on about how video games, rock music, and any form of fantasy or horror fiction were inherently satanic and meant to program people? We believe that the Christians were wrong about the... Vampires are real. Are they? Are they interdimensional? Okay, I will say this story definitely is actually panning out to be a real story with creepy stuff. We believe that the Christians were wrong about those games and movies being satanic recruitment tools, but we believe that they could be used as propaganda and conditioning tools to program people to be violent, mixed with specific stimuli and mental and physical conditioning regimens. We'd watch all sorts of extremely violent and dark movies, TV shows, and anime, and read similar books in our spare time when we weren't working or worshiping. The stuff we watched was always either R or NC-17 or X, and we also watched hardcore sadomasochistic stuff, as well as gory and demon hentai. It was supposed to desensitize us and reconfigure our minds to make us warriors for the gods, sort of like the Fianna in the Fenin cycle, or the warrior hero Kukuklikity. Christ. Would you rather type 10,000 would you rathers or never type again? Okay, yeah, we gotta figure out how to say this. Fianna. Man, what the hell? Fenin cycle. Finian. It's gonna be something stupid. Feenan. What is this one? Kulayan. I have no idea. Kukholin. Oh my god. Oh my god. None of these words pronounced in any way how you would expect them. Like German is easier to understand than Irish. It was supposed to desensitize us and reconfigure our minds to make us warriors for the gods, sort of like Fina, or from the Fenin cycle or the warrior hero Kukanan. We also did lots of LARPs and campaigns. Come on. We also did lots of LARPs and campaigns for D&D and Vampire the Masquerade as a form of psychological training. I don't think the programming was that effective, but still. Basically, the logic was that the Christians were wrong,
These corporations weren't using media to brainwash people and make them violent, but we could, and it was up to us to do so. And Too Long didn't read. They read Dark Dungeons and thought that it was a how-to guide. And like I said, these guys were whack, and I'm glad that I left them completely. My biggest concern is whether or not the cult as a whole is still in existence, or whether any of these people did successfully infiltrate the gaming industry after the failed Carnival attempt. Even if the cult itself disbanded, I could see some individuals retaining their twisted beliefs and trying to continue their experiments on their own or with a new cult. The two guys at Midway on the Carnival dev team were based out of Iowa and commuted to Illinois. However, the small studio contracted to do the console version of Carnival, which was more of a remake sequel than a true port, was from the Michigan set. I only met 2 people from the Michigan crew at a Llamas gathering in the late 90s, a girl and a guy, both of whom were creepy even by cult standards. The girl had a weird obsession with JFK, kind of like the goth girl who claimed that she was married to Sephiroth or something. Now, personally, I thought she was nuts, even back then, like they could have been characters in an August Underground movie or something. And I wouldn't be surprised if the cult was organized as some black ops recruitment farm for some bigger organizations. I'm not sure if they were being used by the deep state or some other large cult unrelated to any of it, but I always thought it was an unusual thing for such a fucking hell. How are my friends doing, the ones affected by the hurricane? They're doing physically okay. They're just like mentally kind of fucked, I guess, as they come to terms with the fact that they lost their house. And now they have to basically plan on how they're going to get the fuck, like sell the condemned house that they now have, deal with FEMA, deal with insurance, deal with contractors, all that kind of stuff. And then sell, and then sell their house and then move to another state, essentially. It's just like so much. And then they also have to like break the news to their in-laws that like they're leaving that state because they all kind of moved down together to like retire. Not like retire, but just like live a happier life in the sun or whatever. Did they get the $750? I mean, there was more than $750 there on their GoFundMe, but yeah, they got the money from the GoFundMe, which was good. Your area was affected by Helene, and I don't know how people deal with hurricanes on an annual basis. I have no idea. I mean, I guess they would have been fine if, like, they were up in a one of the houses that were built on stilts. I heard the $750 is only a loan and has to be paid back. Yeah, I don't know, dude. The whole fucking like FEMA bullshit has been like completely terrible. It's so disgusting to me that like the current admin with like Kamala and Biden are like more concerned with handing money over to fucking distant wars and playing like both sides of said war than fucking supporting anybody in the. And I'm not saying like, I don't know. You get the idea. It's clearly a fucking red mark that like everybody on the East Coast and especially everybody down south is not gonna like not forget that. You know what I mean? It's like fucking batshit insane to me that we're like more concerned with like distant wars and geopolitical supporting financially rather than just like people internally within the country. It's fucking bonkers. Ever played D&D? I tried playing D&D with my friends, but I was started when I was playing with them in like my mid-20s. I remember like 6 or 7-year-old me would shit my pants to play D&D, probably to like come up with characters and pretend, because I was very much into that stuff back then. But as I got older, I it was so hard to take it seriously. Magic the Gathering's where it's at. Insurance companies won't give people flood insurance now because so many of them went underwater from how many houses have been lost. Really? So like if you're designated underwater, there's just... Yeah. Yeah, and like fucking North Carolina, like holy shit, man. It's just, I don't even know. There's just like too much shit going on at one time. How do you even keep up with it? And like what the fuck is Joe Biden? Like what is he? Like what is he? Just like sitting quietly in his basement, like shitting his pants for the past fucking 4 years. It's so retarded, dude. I'm so done with this stuff. I'm so tired of people like pretending like that the world is just like fine, everything's normal. So insane. He's sleepy. He's sleepy though. He's Dark Brandon. Fucking staring off into nothingness. I don't know. I'm not saying that there's like any option on the other end, to be honest with you. I think we're pretty well fucked either way, and you can only rely on yourself, but it's just, it's disgusting. The whole thing is just so odd. I'm not sure if they are being used by the deep state or some other larger cult unrelated to any of it, but I always thought it was unusual for such a fringe cult to have so many sets in multiple states and even one in Canada. Still, they were all small in number. The Iowa set that I was in ran about 20 or so deep at most. The Kentucky set had about 10 or 12 people at its peak, and there were groups in Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Virginia who were... Oh shit, they found out about our Pennsylvania cult. The Iowa set that I was in ran about 20 or so deep at most. The Kentucky set about... Oh, God damn it. The Iowa set that I was in ran about 20 or so deep at most. The Kentucky set had about 10 or 12 at its peak, and there were groups in Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Virginia whose sets were in the single digits. The biggest group was the Mother Chapter in the Chicago area, which had around 50 members, while the Michigan guys numbered anywhere from 15 to 25. Maybe some of the more promising cultists were led into a bigger organization. We watched a lot of zombie movies and used the term zombie apocalypse as code for training for a SH... What the fuck? Oh shit, hit the fan scenario. I see, nice. Maybe some of the more promising cultists were led into a bigger organization, and we watched a lot of these zombie movies and used the term zombie apocalypse as code for training for a crap hit the fan scenario. And this was in the 90s and early 2000s, before The Walking Dead or even 28 Days Later, when zombies became a mainstream fad. Then, all of a sudden, the CDC and FEMA started using zombie apocalypse imagery to raise a narrative... God damn it, I don't understand why my brain just like pronounces something completely different. Then all of a sudden, the CDC and FEMA started using zombie apocalypse imagery to raise awareness for emergency preparedness and disaster prep. It could have been a test run for predictive programming, or maybe it was just a coincidence, I don't know. If the cult owns music, TV, and news, it probably owns video games too, especially when you consider that most games are essentially murder simulators, and how poorly game companies treat their employees is a telltale sign. True, but this cult didn't own any of these things per se. They did, however, try to infiltrate these studios and companies. I didn't work for Midway, but my roommate did, and he never really said much about being treated poorly. He mainly complained about his meager paycheck, which may have been small on its own, but was also being siphoned off by the cult. Certain cultists had to pay dues every so often, and the higher up in rank you were, the more often you had to pay. The money would go into a communal box and was often used for mundane expenses, stockpile supplies, and sometimes we'd all get small cash bonuses on certain days like, oh shit, the holiday. Squirrel of Mystery with the 5. The house is who approves funding for anything, so thank them. Yeah, I guess if I really do sit and reflect on that, I have no fucking clue. I guess I'm kind of just deflecting frustration or like projecting frustration onto things onto the executive branch as one normally does when they don't fully understand the process, but yeah. I guess it is what it is. What can I do? Just sit there and watch it all unfold. And like I said, I feel like the only thing that can foolproof most of life is just being prepared yourself. But in situations like that, it's like, what the fuck can you do? A giant mega fucking hurricane comes through and just rips through your home in an area that's not even supposed to really get them. It's just fucking terrifying. Good morning, everyone. Always nice to start the week with the tail end of the live stream. I know, I feel bad. But I think this last story is salvageable as being potentially the first story, so that should be sick. I hope. The money would go into a communal box and was often used for mundane oh, I forgot I was supposed to... forgot how to say this holiday. Samhain, yeah. Samhain and Beltane. A bag of Beltane chips. Beltana, of course. Samhain and Beltana. The money would go into a communal box and was often used for mundane expenses, stockpiling of supplies, and sometimes we'd all get small cash bonuses on certain days like Samhain and Beltana. He was one rank. He was one rank above me back in 1998. I had to pay once every 3 months, and while he paid once a month. And by the time I left the cult in 2002, I was paying once every 2 weeks, and he had been transferred to By the time I left the cult in 2002, I was paying once every 2 weeks, and he had been transferred to the set over in Illinois for some secret ritual for high-ranked members who were allowed leadership roles or the right to start their own set. He got promoted around 2000, shortly after the Y2K New Year celebrations, and I never really saw him again after he left Iowa. That being said, if the cult that I was in was trying to infiltrate the industry, maybe they were being used as proxies for a bigger cult or organization with more real influence. The only place I could ever find this arcade game was at traveling carnivals and festivals. I liked it enough that sometimes that would be the main reason that I'd go to the carnival or festival. And that's weird. I've encountered it at mall, arcades, and movie theaters or bowling alleys in the wild in several places over the years, and I do know it was a massive success in arcades, which made it conspicuous. Fucking hell. Is that a whole ass fucking... Jesus Christ. Slenderman games? Not really. I remember the chapters or pages or whatever.
We aren't just sending Ukraine cash, we're giving them old military equipment and aren't using anymore. We want to send hurricane victims old military equipment as compensation. I think so. I think that'd be good. They can fight off the next hurricane. Just shoot a fucking old missile from the 80s into it. And hopefully it won't be a dud. We can send a bunch of drones out there to spin in the opposite direction to slow it down. Rising Dawn, your hypotheticals. Give us happy ones, bro. Happy hypotheticals. All of yours are like, would you rather your balls crushed by your sister or your mom? Give us something happy. And that's weird. I've encountered it at mall arcades and movie theaters or bowling alleys in the wild in several places over the years, and I do know it was a massive success in arcades, which made its conspicuous lack of a sequel or console port all the more jarring. I also know that the console version wasn't meant to be a direct port, but a sequel/remake hybrid like Evil Dead 2. It was done by a smaller third-party company, and when you know who was involved in that unknown third-party crew, it becomes more obvious why there was no follow-up in the game's success. The decline of arcades in North America and Midway's collapse in the late 2000s only compounded the issue further. So how exactly does Greg fit into this? A lifetime card of ice cream or any of your favorite candy. Oh man, that's good. I think probably I'd take the ice cream. I think ice cream is like infinitely better than all the candies and probably easier to digest. Isn't it kind of weird that you just like put food into your body and it just turns into fucking globs of fat on your body? It's so easy. You just absorb it and you turn it into smush. Favorite ice cream? Probably cookies and creme, peanut butter, really anything. What time is it? It's 3 in the morning. 10 pounds of Skittles or 10 pounds of Starburst? Oh man, that's a good point. Probably Skittles. I feel like that'd be easier. Yeah, scoops of ice cream into your bag. That'd be great. Happy Halloween. We made it extra sloppy for you. Feastables has a new cookie and cream. Yeah, what the hell's... Oh, the chocolate, right. Are they doing okay as a company? Joe, I told you I wanted IHOP last night, and I'm proud to say I got some. Nice, dude. I'm glad you did. So, how exactly does Greg fit into this? This game was released in 1998, and in the 2000 video, he was still a weeb. Did he become a huge cult leader so rapidly that he was involved in the attempted console port? Nah. Greg was part of the Canadian branch of the cult, and the Carnival port was handheld. Fuck. Damn, my brain is just like shut down. Nah, Greg was part of the Canadian branch of the cult. The Carnival port was handled by the Michigan set, and he was rising through the ranks, and last I heard, he was being primed to become a leader of the Ontario. Oh my god, bro. He was rising through the ranks, and the last I heard, he was being primed to become a leader of the Ontario chapter. Greg fits into this mainly as proof of the cult's existence and the fact that they recruited from the outcasts of society and transformed them as much as they could. The girl had a weird obsession with JFK, maybe because of his... And that girl that had the weird obsession with JFK probably had it because of JFK's weird ice... Oh my god, dude. I don't understand.
Who's gonna carry the boats and the logs? And the big burlap sacks full of grease so we can cook chicken in the deep fryer. Honestly, being a Navy SEAL, when you see what they go through for like Hell Week and whatnot, it's kind of not that cool. I'll be honest with you. Like, it definitely required a degree of like, you're mentally tough, but it also just seems kind of random on the off chance that your body just decides not to go into hypothermia. And how that happens, to me, seems, I don't know, not really worth the effort. Especially if you get trained and you get turned into this like hardened soldier just so that you can be sent off to go die for whatever abstract purpose they can think of that week, or go and guard some area. I don't know. It just, like, I do, and the fact that like the only popular ones that really get popular or really get their like sort of get the flowers that I guess they deserve are the ones that end up like selling, sweat wicking underwear for the most part, or like sell a book or sell an audio thing or do inspirational speeches or whatever you know what I mean? Like, it's being the SEAL, it's not the knock on any of them. It's just strange to think that like at the end of the day, the bastardization of what it is really what it ends up becoming, and just like finding ways to like make money. Huh? Never had a creepy stalker fan. Yeah. Pergy G is one. He's been around too long. Don't diss me. I'm just kidding. But what's the huh about? What are you hunging? You gotta follow up the huhs. Maneet, what's up, dude? Looking very neat. I have a friend in the military. He works 2 jobs, enlisted, don't make enough. Yeah. I don't know. Just all the horror experiences, it sounds like. And the fact that, yeah, you're going through that Hell Week process, and they could sit there and put you in front of the water, and waves splash into you. And, oh, are you dead yet? No? All right, we'll keep going. Oh, are you dead yet? No? We'll keep going. And it's like, I get it. But, like, am I supposed to be impressed? Like, is that my end goal in life, is to just be some super soldier? I'm gonna take a salt bong hit, yeah. You can't even see straight. Shane Gillis said Marines are badass as fuck, but the Taliban terrorists are hardcore. I mean, this is true. It is true. It's not good, but it's like, neither is either side. I don't know what the fuck's going on. Just endless combatants. And yeah, his thing where he's like, if I was shooting a fucking RPG and it like hit something, I'd be like, ah! Hey, yeah! Fuck yeah! Yeah! That's exactly how you'd react. I think you might be onto something. Also, if you're interested in learning more... Wait. Oh, wait, did I skip something? Oh, yeah, I did. Oh my god, what the fuck? Okay. And that girl with the weird obsession with JFK, I think it was just because of his Irish ancestry. Obviously, the circumstances of his death are incredibly suspicious, and I wonder if he was deliberately bred to be the king, President of the USA, and his execution was a large-scale enactment of the sacrifice of the king ritual common to many Indo-European mythologies, including Celtic, and that's why his bloodline has such a political dynasty in Boston to this day. They're the modern equivalent of the Celtic pagan divine kingly Holy fuck! Like, every one of these sentences are like 9,000 words of just mishmash baloney gash. And that's why his bloodline has such a political dynasty in Boston to this day. They're the modern equivalent of the Celtic pagan divine kingly lineage. And I think you might be onto something. Also, if you're interested in learning more, I can give you the first name of the old roommate who was in the cult and worked on the released arcade version of Carnival at Midway. I can't remember his last name because it's been so long, but I do know his first name is Rowan. I always found it eerie that a guy in a Celtic pagan death cult had the same name as a tree that figures in Celtic mythology and... What the fuck? Why does it, like, just sound not right? You thought my name was Joel? You should have known that it was Smorgleputs. My true identity. I always found it eerie that a guy in a Celtic pagan death cult had the same name as a tree that figures in Celtic mythology. That's not... What the fuck? I always found it eerie that a guy in a Celtic pagan death cult had the same name as a tree that figures in Celtic mythology is also the name of the missing girl from The Wicker Man. What the fuck is going on? Why is it not picking up that this is bad grammar? That a Celtic guy in a Celtic death cult had the same name as a tree. Same name as a tree that figures into... Oh, that figures in. I've never heard that term, figures in. Like, fits in. I always found it eerie that a guy in a Celtic pagan death cult had the same name as a tree that figures into Celtic mythology, and is also the name of the missing girl from The Wicker Man. When you say that this cult was right-wing, what do you mean by that? What were some of their actual political beliefs? The cult was right-wing in the sense that we didn't go for the Wiccan hippie feminist stuff like most of the left-wing neo-pagans. We were very pro-gun and very anti-government, and this was the 90s, so think along the lines of the old militia movement, but pagan instead of Christian. There was some ethnocentrism, but we weren't explicitly racist or supremacist. I don't think I ever saw a non-white person in the cult, but that may have been a coincidence. We did have a few non-Celts, or more accurately, people who weren't fully Celtic if their surnames were anything to go by. OP, this is the kind of stuff I live for. What are the chances of recovering any material to the tunnel scene? Any possibility of a script still existing out there? Maybe someone on the dev team could be contacted. I am absolutely enamored by your lead, and thank you for giving this to us, and please keep it coming. I don't know if there's a script still out there, and I'm kind of worried about contacting the dev team. Not everyone in the Midway dev team was a cultist, and I know for a fact that Jack Hagar wasn't. It was only Rowan and someone else whose name I can't remember. I'm not sure if it would be a good idea to bother them about the cult stuff. If they're still involved or if the cult is still active, it could blow back on both me and him. Contacting them about their early builds of the game or the script might be acceptable, as it would... as would seeing if you could find the third... Holy shit. I don't even know what to make of this story, but it is what it is at this point. You guys are now receiving hours worth of content. Oh. Contacting them about early builds of the game or the script might be acceptable as... Fuck. Contacting them about early builds of the game or the script might be acceptable, as would seeing if you could find the third-party devs who were trying to make the unfinished console reboot of the game with the license. Actually, what the fuck am I talking about? No, I'm gonna just end on the last sentence there. It was only Rowan and someone else whose name I can't remember. I'm not sure if it would be a good idea to bother them about the cult stuff. If they're still involved or if the cult is still active, it could blow back on both me and him. Alright, sweet. That sounds more ominous. Ugh, guys, ugh. I don't know. What did you guys feel about those stories tonight? Were they stupid as shit?
I was not a fan of the stories tonight. Perfect. Which one do you think I should start with? Do you think that Carnival one was like interesting enough to like kind of kick it off? They weren't half bad. They were all bad, yeah. Old Celt cult. Yeah. Making up my own story. I don't even know what I would write about. He stared at me on the bus. He had a butt plug up his ass. He kept just having such a good time. I feel like every joke I ever make is just like poop or butthole related, so it's good to see that 544 of you enjoy that. Alright, let's end this poll too. What do we get? Do you snack during chat? We got 62% yes and 37% liars. Liars! Alright, we're doing the outro script, so if you guys could think of something funny for me to say. Hey friends, thanks for listening. Click that notification bell to be alerted of all future narrations. I release new videos every Monday and Thursday at 9 p.m. EST, and there are super fun live streams every Sunday and Wednesday nights. If you got a story, be sure to submit them over at my email, letsreadsubmissions@gmail.com, and maybe even hear your story featured on the next video. And if you want to support me even more, grab early access to all future narrations and bonus content over on Patreon, or click that big join button to hear about the extra perks for members of the channel. And check out the Let's Read podcast, where you can hear all of these stories and big compilations located anywhere you listen to podcasts. All links in the description below. Thanks so much, friends. And remember, Salt Bong is love. Salt Bong is life. What do I think about diarrhea horror stories where people doesn't make it to the toilet? Save some for me. Alright, guys, that was a long one, but it's kind of funny because it's still, even though it was like, I mean, out here, this was widowy, let's count the words. I'm fairly certain it was twice the length of like a normal video. What the fuck? Oh my god, it's so annoying. I love when I do everything wrong. Okay. It's close to 16,000 words, which is like the same length, or the same length as 2 normal lengths videos. Sadly, most of the stories were kind of stupid, or just kind of like drawn out for no reason, really, with nothing bad happening, but maybe that makes them almost like more authentic when like nothing crazy happens. Yeah. Oh, well, thank you guys for hanging out. I hope you appreciated our 2 stream nights in a row. If you did get gifted a bonus content member thing tonight, or if you do have, if you're already a member, be sure to go check out the bonus content and the bonus content member playlist. We got a new story written up over there about World War I and paranormal happenings back then. Pretty interesting. And cool, too. Makes you go, whoa, what the heck was that? Was that a jump scare? But, yeah, otherwise I'll be back streaming on Wednesday night. So I hope you can join me for that. Otherwise, the new video will be out tonight at 9 p.m. EST. Same time, same place on YouTube. I'll get it up on Patreon. You get early access over there for $1 a month, which is a pretty dang good deal. It's like, I think you can even get it for like $10.50 for the whole year. Holy cow. Help me feed my kids and feed them with, like, you know, random lint that I find in my pocket, because $10 I'd be broke. But anyways, love you guys, appreciate you. I'll see you in the next one. Stay cool, stay lean, stay extra green.